You know what? You know what? I told myself last time around after the New York Giants hired Joe Judge and we all got super excited and we were all pumped up. We are all jacked up. We got behind Judge as a fan base. We were excited as a fan base. We thought he was going to be the knight in shining armor. That I wouldn't overreact to when the New York Giants made a move going forward. Screw that. Stand up! New York Giant fans! New York Giants just got themselves a new GM. They hire from outside the organization. And it was everything that I asked for as a Giants fan going into the offseason. I worried that John Mara wasn't going to learn from his ways. I worried that John Mara was going to bring in an in-house guy again. He was not going to conduct an outside search. He brought in 9 outside candidates. It was a thorough search, and the New York Giants finally got their man. In the end, I pretty much knew it was going to be Joe Schoen, as I said on Twitter, as I said on my YouTube channel. Very qualified candidate. Has ties Bean has ties to Gettleman. So I figured that there was some talk there, being that obviously Bean thought highly of Gettleman, that he learned underneath him, that you had to figure there was some communication between the New York Giants and the Bills in the offseason. And the Bills have done a great job since Joe Schoen and Bean have been there. They've completely turned that organization around. Schoen initially was hired by Bill Parcells with the Miami Dolphins. I'm sorry, first he was with the Panthers, then hired by the Miami Dolphins before he got his opportunity with the Buffalo Bills. He's just 42 years old, and the New York Giants finally have gotten the ball rolling this offseason as they've conducted their GM search, and it's over. And now we can start to talk about the head coaching candidates. As far as the press conference with the GM goes with Joe Schoen, I don't know when that's going to be. I have to think it's going to be after the playoff game this week, and then maybe he'll get introduced to the New York Giants, and we'll get to hear what his vision and his plan is. But one thing you can't argue is the Buffalo Bills have definitely built a good football team over there. Of course, Josh Allen doesn't hurt, but he was a part of that evaluation process in bringing in Josh Allen, who's one of the top 5 quarterbacks in football. And I'm sure a lot of the names you're going to hear are Flores, Dable. There's going to be a lot of hot candidates that the Giants could potentially bring in. I would think Dable's the potential favorite right now just due to his ties, but that doesn't necessarily mean that he's going to get the job. I think the New York Giants, as I've said several times, should go offensively driven with their head coach. I think that's the future of the NFL, especially being that you have a young quarterback in Daniel Jones and potentially will be replacing him with another young quarterback. You want to get that guy off on the right foot. You look at all the top young coaches now in the NFL, LaFleur, Shanahan with the 9. They're all young. They're all young, and they're all offensively minded. So we'll see what route the New York Giants take with the head coach. Can't wait till we get the candidates, and we'll take it from there. But I'm excited right now for a new regime of New York Giants football. We got a new general manager. We got a new decision maker. And John Mara, in my opinion, stepped aside, and he allowed this guy he brought in a guy completely from the outside. And now I only hope that he continues to let him make the decisions, which I think he will. So I'm excited. I hope you guys are too. I'm going to shout out a couple of you guys in the chat, then we'll get to some of the donations. Thank you to everybody for being here. Hope you guys are enjoying your day. And let's talk some football, man. Inside the Game, man. Flores, and then Watson next. We'll talk about it. I know that that's a rumor people have been talking about. What's up, Frank Graham? What's going on, Matt? What's going on, Andrew? What's going on, Jets for Life? What's going on there, Alex E? What's going on there, Joey? Big Tours, Fabian, Bill M in the chat, Andrew Boyle in the chat, MVP in the chat, Sean G in the chat, Sammy Conway in the chat, Lake Note in the chat, King David Cressley, Garrett Jones. What's going on, guys? I know you guys are pumped up. We got a new regime of New York Giants football. Gettleman's out the door, and I'm happy as a Giants fan because I don't need to talk about that guy anymore. I don't need to pull my hair out anymore trying to make sense of the moves that the guy made. I am going to be the first to say I'm going to give this guy, as I said, I don't care if it was Louis Riddick. I didn't care who the GM was going to be. I'm going to give this guy a 3-year leash. I'm going to be just as patient with him as I was with Dave Gettleman. I'm going to give him an opportunity to succeed or fail. But the one thing that I really like, it doesn't seem like he's being forced anything upon him, which is a good start. My old Sitbone says, great news for a big Giants fan from the UK. Let's go out and get Dable or Flores for the head coach now. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I think Dable's the favorite right now, but he's a slight favorite. I don't even know who all the candidates are going to be. We've heard about Dan Quinn. There were rumors today about Todd Bowles, but I'm sure there's going to be 7, 8, 9, 10 candidates. I'm sure Dable's name is going to be thrown in the hat, along with Flores. And Flores is a guy that some people seem to be divided on. Some people are all about it. I'll talk about some of the pros and cons with Flores, at least in my opinion. And I've always been a big Flores guy. Go back, watch my channel over the last 2 or 3 years. I've always given that guy a ton of credit, what he's done with the Miami Dolphins. But I definitely see some of the cons to bringing Flores in, along with some of the pros. But I think he's definitely a good head coaching candidate. And I think he's a guy that the New York Giants should at least certainly bring in for an interview. The thing you have to question with Flores is, one, the offense with Miami never really got off on the right foot. Granted, he was kind of forced upon Tua. That's what basically came out. He didn't want Tua to begin with. And it sounds like he doesn't get along with his coaches, with the Miami Dolphins, so on and so forth. So we'll see, what route they take there. But I'd like Flores. I think Flores has proven that he can be a winning head coach. He gets the most out of his players. Team didn't quit on him. So I think he's definitely a guy that they should at least interview for sure. But thank you, man. I appreciate it, buddy. Let me get to a couple of these member chats before I forget them, and then we'll get back to these because they don't pop up on here. I want to make sure I don't lose these because I always lose them. Let me get Justin real quick. Justin Martinez, man, thank you for being a member for 22 months. He says, I did like the 49ers drafts better, but Schoen has the most experience building office. Can't wait for the full list of head coaching candidates to come out. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm really excited about. And I'm going to do individual videos on each and every head coaching candidate, much like I did last time around, 8-10-minute videos, whatever, just to get a better understanding of what they bring to the table, their background, so on and so forth. But I'm excited. I'm excited to see the list of names that we do bring in here. And hopefully this time around, the New York Giants get it right. But thank you very much, buddy. And Sports Influencer, man, I might have missed one member chat. If I did, I apologize. Thank you for being a member for 18 months. Says, stand up. Let's get straight to it. Rank your top 3 head coaching candidates. Oh, man. Let me see the list first. But, I mean, right now, I like Harbaugh. I know he's not realistic, but I'm going to put him in my top 3. I know a lot of Giants fans don't like him. I like Harbaugh. I don't think he's going to get the job. But if you're asking me just name my top 3, he's in my top 3. Flores and probably Dable. Those would probably be my top 3 at this point in time. But I think the most important thing is I want the GM to be comfortable with the head coach he selects, and I want them to be able to work well together. I think that's the most important thing. And me personally, I prefer an offensively minded head coach, which is why I'd probably lean more Dable or potentially Harbaugh to a guy like Flores. If you brought in Flores, I'm completely fine with it. I would prefer, obviously, a very good offensive coordinator to work along with him, and that's something that he has not been able to show, at least with Miami, that he's been able to work with head coaches. So that's the concern there, but I'd be happy with any one of those 3. And there's a lot of other names we're going to get in terms of head coaching candidates. So we'll see. Once I get my list and I see who they're bringing in, I'll give you guys my opinion in terms of who I think they're going to hire and who I would hire. Matt, thank you very much, man. Giants Mafia era begins today. I sure hope so, Matt, man. It's been a long time coming, and it feels like hopefully we got our organization back, man. I hope so, man, because it's been tough for me, for you, for everybody that's a New York Giants fan since I've been on YouTube and long before it. Haven't been a good team since our last Super Bowl, as far as I'm concerned. We had a fluke year in 2016 in which we played a soft schedule. Our offense was still lackluster, and we found a way to get into the playoffs. But we have not been a consistently good team since 2012, and that's sad. Pimp named Slickback says, now get me Dable and get me Willis and Aquanu first round. Kid has a massive ceiling. Do your homework and be open-minded, Giants fans. Excited for Schoen. Listen, I'm going to be open-minded. I'm going to do my research on all the quarterbacks. I've looked into Malik Willis. I am still definitely leaning not going quarterback. That's not my preference. But what I will say, Pimp named Slickback, no matter what they do, I am not going to be overly critical with a new general manager. I'm going to allow this guy to make the decisions that he feels are the right decisions by the football team, and I'm going to allow him to build the team the way that he sees fit, whether that be to draft a quarterback, whether that be to build up the offensive line. The one thing I will say, if he drafts any quarterback, Malik Willis, Kenny Pickett, you name it, if he drafts any quarterback top 7, I'm not talking second round. Second round is a different discussion. You draft a quarterback in the second round, there's no financial commitment there. You can move off him after a year. You take a quarterback top 5, you're not drafting a quarterback the next year. So if he drafts a quarterback top 5 this year, and you're going to take him 5th, you're not going to take him 7th, you're not going to risk him falling to 7. If he takes a quarterback with that 5th pick this year, if he's not a top 10 quarterback by year 3, Joe Schoen's out of job. And he's got to realize that when he makes that decision. And if he feels that guy's going to be a bona fide top 10 quarterback, take your swing. And I hope that you're right as a New York Giants fan. That's my take on it. I just hope he's right if he goes that route. It's not going to be what I want, but I'm going to go in with an open mind, like you said, and let him build the team the way that he wants. I'll do my research on all the prospects. Entertainer Talking Sports Burner says, I'm at work, but I don't care. Let's go. I'm excited. Let the rebuild begin. I think I'm going to leave work early to celebrate. Let's enjoy this together, Giants fans. Let's go, my man. I know you guys be excited. I figured I'd go live. I've been waiting because there really wasn't much to talk about. Like, what am I going to talk about? Like, oh, they brought another GM candidate for it. Like, Let's wait to see who the GM is going to be. Then we're going to get the direction of this team. Now you're going to see nonstop content on the channel once we get the list of the head coaches. After the Joe Schoen interview, he's going to talk about the direction of the team. Then we're going to get the offensive coordinators, the defensive coordinators. We're going to see how the coaching staff is going to be built. And then we'll get into the offseason with the drafted free agency and everything else. But I was just kind of waiting for the first domino to fall, and it has. We know who the new leader in the front office is going to be. It's going to be Joe Schoen. Irish Giant fan says, let's go Giants fans. Very happy with this move. Let's get back to where we belong. Stand up. And that's atop the NFC East, man. It's been way too long. MVP says, screw the legal issues. If he's proven okay, then okay. Give me Deshaun and a line, man. And we are set. Stand up. We'll see. There's been rumors about Flores, if he gets the head coaching job, that he'd potentially want to get Deshaun Watson, or Watson would want to go with Flores. I'm not even going to give that a thought until we get Flores. If we get Flores and the rumors persist, then I'll talk about it extensively on the channel. I'm sure it's going to be a hot topic of the offseason if we do, in fact, hire Brian Flores. But until that happens, I'm going to lay off, but we'll see. The one thing I'll say, people say that that's the type of guy that John Mara would never go out and get. Well, John Mara is kind of acting a way that he never would. It looks like he's being completely hands-off. He's bringing in an outsider. So we'll see. I think anything's possible this offseason. If you ask me now, I would lean no. I don't think we're going to get Deshaun Watson. I doubt it, and it would cost an arm and a leg. But whenever you have an opportunity to get a quarterback that's 25 years old, that is top 5 in the league, you have to strongly consider it if the deal is appropriate. You're not going to give up more than you should, but you have to at least listen. But, of course, like you said, the legal issues are an issue. Yuri says, let's build the foundation the right way, not the Judge way. Listen, man, I don't want to rag on Judge. He took the brunt of the responsibility. He took the blame. He's gone. It's time to move on. It's time to think about the future of this team. Joe Judge was put in an unfortunate situation, a tough spot, but he didn't make it a whole lot better, and he made it hard upon himself. And we got to hope that the new head coach that comes in does a better job. That's my take on it, and hopefully this GM does a good job picking the head coach out. Yuri says, Dable has ties to Tua. This will be a race for head coaching candidates. Dable has ties to Tua. Because he was at Alabama, right? Yeah, Dable was at Alabama before he got the Bills job in 2007. I think up till 2017. 2018, he came in Josh Allen's second year, if I'm not mistaken. So, yeah, he does have ties to Tua. I don't think we're going to get Tua, though, if that's what you're insinuating. I don't see that happening. The one thing that I noticed with the two GM candidates that they brought in, I said it today on Twitter, in terms of the quarterback position, and hopefully, Daniel Jones becomes elite for everybody that thinks he's going to be. But if he doesn't, the one thing that I noticed both with the Bills and the 49ers, both those teams took big swings at the quarterbacks that they drafted. By that, I mean they went for guys with really high upside. Trey Lance was perhaps the guy with the most upside in his draft, if not Trevor Lawrence, but definitely had really high upside and it was a low floor, high ceiling type prospect. And you could say the same thing about Josh Allen with the Buffalo Bills, and both candidates traded up to get them. So to me, if you ask me what type of quarterback we're going to go for, if we take one in the first round, I think it's going to be a high ceiling prospect, a guy with a lot of potential, with maybe a little bit riskier than perhaps a guy like Daniel Jones, who was kind of, at least in my opinion, a guy that was kind of higher floor, lower ceiling type prospect. And that is how I would prefer to draft a quarterback if they were going to go that route. Not necessarily this year. I don't want to take a quarterback this year, but in the future, I think that's what you're looking at. Octave says, this will probably be like Beans and Shane's first year in Buffalo, where it's building up something one step at a time, hoping for Dable for our quarterback. Yeah, I think Dable's done a really good job with Josh Allen. Now, to be fair, he has Josh Allen. And I understand that Josh Allen was a project, like I just said. He was a guy with a lot of upside. I understand all that. But Daniel Jones, if you're being completely fair with yourself and just watch them objectively, he's not Josh Allen. He's just not. So having Josh Allen certainly has helped Dable, and I think people need to realize that he's, in my opinion, if not one of the top 3 or 4 most talented quarterbacks in the NFL. I know that he progressed as a quarterback under Dable. He got a lot more accurate, and hopefully if we do bring in Dable, he's able to do that for Jones or the quarterback that we end up drafting. V-Man says, seeing Giants fans complain they got the GM from the team they didn't want is like complaining you got a 67 Camaro instead of 69 Camaro. Just be glad you got a 60s Camaro. Listen, man, I'm not complaining. Like I said on Twitter all week, I would have been happy with any of the GMs they brought in. I was encouraged that they were bringing them in from winning organizations, that they were younger, that they were not Mara guys, not guys with Giants ties. So I was excited no matter who they brought in. I slightly preferred Peters, but it's not like I'm jumping off a bridge because they took Joe Schoen. And I always thought it was going to be Joe Schoen for all the reasons that I've expressed over the last couple of weeks. I always thought he was the favorite once I gained knowledge on all the candidates over the last 2 weeks, I thought Joe Schoen was the favorite. And yeah, I'm excited that he's a New York Giant. I'm excited that we could start to get this offseason kicked off. And you knew it had to happen by today because, I think from what I read, I'm pretty sure that once the championship weeks occur, meaning the AFC and NFC championship, you can't hire a guy from that staff. All three guys the New York Giants were bringing in for the second interview were guys that teams were still in the playoffs. So that's why I knew it was going to happen today, and it did. And I'm happy that we got Shane. Best of luck to Peters and Poles, who both seem like really good candidates as well. But thank you very much, buddy. Let's see. Let's catch up. Jatone says, I'll be honest, I want an offensive head coach. You and me both. I've been talking, people have asked me now for months, what type of head coach do you want to bring in? I'm a guy that is definitely leaning more offense. I think that's the future of the NFL, and especially in the situation the New York Giants are in. That's what I want. But at the end of the day, the only thing that matters is winning. Bring in a winning head coach. Bring in a guy that can find a way to get wins for this football team. But I'm with you. I'm definitely leaning more on the offensive end. And once I get a list of all the candidates, that's when I'll come up with my decision as to who I think they should target. Jakey, man, stand up, new member. Welcome to the squad, man. I hope I pronounced that right. Jakai, maybe. Either way, thank you very much. Art says, does this mean that Gettleman won't be calling you on stream anymore? If so, this is really the end of an era. Yeah, no, I told Gettleman as soon as he retired, enjoy your retirement. Take my number off your speed dial. From now on, I'll be receiving calls from Joe Schoen. So I'm looking forward to that. Should be a much different conversation. Joe Schoen, more up to date with the modern age of the NFL. So looking forward to getting to talk to Joe Schoen. Nelly says, Tana, I'm so pumped. Jumped up at work. I'm going to wait and see what Shane does and give him time to fix this mess. Let's go Big Blue. And I think that's important. I know a lot of Giants fans are not that way. And maybe some Giants fans, I think they've come out and told me that the reason that they weren't patient with Gettleman is because they felt like it wasn't a legitimate GM search. And 2018 was a mess. I'm giving this guy 3 years. I'm giving this GM 3 years before I truly analyze the decisions that he made. Now, I will give my opinion when they happen, but I'm always going to be of the mindset, I'm going to give this guy 3 years to build the team the way that he wants to build it. And if this team does not work out, well, then it's time to move on. But you have to give this guy 3 years. And that goes for the head coach as well, because the head coach he's bringing in is his handpicked selection. So I'm giving these guys 3 years together to try to build this team up and get the New York Giants down the right path. We're not going to just snap our fingers and this team's going to be great overnight. It's just not going to happen. You got to go in with a realistic mindset. People could say, well, if Kenny Golladay stays healthy, if Saquon Barkley stays healthy, if Kadarius Toney stays healthy, but that's just the point. They don't stay healthy. And we don't have very good depth on this football team. We need to build up this football team, and it's not going to happen in 1 year. It's going to take multiple years for this team to get to where it needs to be. And in my opinion, I'm giving him 3 years before I'm crucial about the general manager in terms of calling for his job. You have to give this guy some time. Everybody talks about everybody talks about how bad of a job Dave Gettleman did. Well, if Dave Gettleman did such a bad job, which he did, this guy's inheriting that. This guy is inheriting an absolute mess, much like Dave did. So you have to give him time to build this team. That's at least my mindset on the matter, and I'm going to give him that time. But everybody's entitled to their own opinion. I'm sure there's going to be some Giants fans that are calling for his job after a year. I will not be one of those fans. LA Yankee King says, Joe needs to blow this roster up and fully rebuild. It's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to happen overnight. You're not going to be able to completely blow up the roster overnight. The reason being, nobody's taking the Golladay contract. Nobody's taking the Adoree Jackson contract. There's no value for Saquon Barkley right now. Nobody's taking the Leonard Williams contract. So they're not going to be able to just blow it up. I think they're going to slowly get guys off the roster that they don't think are going to be part of the long-term plan, try to accrue draft capital, but don't expect them to do a complete blow-up right out of the gate. But they will slowly start to get these guys off the roster that they don't think are part of the long-term solution of the New York Giants football team, or at least I hope they do. I don't want them to try to rebuild and win at the same time. We've seen what that results in. Now, will they do a complete rebuild? Who knows? I don't know what they're going to do. We're going to wait and hear what Joe Schoen has to say, and we'll see the offseason moves that they make. Obviously, there's guys on this roster like Martinez and Bradbury who are potential questionable cuts due to the salary implications on their contract. And the New York Giants could save, I think, $12 million if they cut Bradbury, 8 or 9 if they cut Martinez, and neither one of those guys were Joe Schoen picks. So those are certainly guys that they could try to cut and free up some salary cap space. It'll be interesting to see the decisions that the New York Giants make, but make no mistake about it, LA Yankee King, nobody on this roster is safe long-term. Nobody, because none of these guys were picked by Joe Schoen. At the end of the day, when you bring in a new general manager, like we saw with Dave Gettleman, he's going to look to bring in his guys and get rid of the previous GM's guys. I expect the same thing. Now, I'm not saying it's going to be a complete overhaul. There may be some guys on this roster they like. Who knows? We don't know what they feel about everybody on this team. Obviously, Andrew Thomas is going to be a part of the long-term solution. Same thing with McKinney. But for the most part, there's not many players on this team that are safe long-term for the New York Giants football team. They're going to start building it the way that they want. But thank you, man. I appreciate it, buddy. Let's see what we got. Schoen says, what's up, Chris? We got our guy. Now let's get a head coach that aligns with his vision and get the ball rolling for a new season. Future is bright for the G-men. Stand up! I like him. I like Schoen that I could finally be positive and I don't get criticized because there's something actually to be positive about. I'm not a guy that likes to be ultrally negative, but this year you had no choice but to be negative, and drastic change was needed. It's why I came out and said that was the case, and the New York Giants had to make drastic changes. Listen, man, I'm a nice guy. I want to give Joe Judge the best opportunity that the Giants possibly could, but it was the right decision. I knew that they had to make the move, and they did. And I'm glad that John Mara learned from his ways. And we have a new vision now for this New York Giants football team. Now you have a new GM who's 42 years old, who has good background, has no ties to the New York Giants, and he's going to get to handpick his head coach. And this is basically like a newborn baby. He's going to be able to build this team the way that he sees fit. And I'm excited as a New York Giants fan. I couldn't be more excited. I just want to get this member chat real quick because, like I said, I always lose them. Will, man, thank you for being a member for 8 months. It was a pleasure to get to meet you, Will, by the way. I went to the Giants-Eagles game. You were there. So freaking happy about this. You know I always have been a Bills fan. Stand up. Hey, man, if you're going to pick a GM from a roster, the Bills, and I made a video on this. I wish I could pinpoint it and show it to you guys. It was during the 2000 and I think it was during the offseason, the first season with Judge, I think. I think it was that offseason. Might have been the offseason before that. But I talked specifically about how the Bills built their roster, and I compared it to the New York Jets because both of them were in very comparable situations, and I was trying to tie what I think the New York Giants should do to what the Bills should do. And that was exactly what Joe Schoen was responsible for, obviously at least partially responsible for, along with Bean. But I talked about their free agency moves, the way that they approached the draft. I wish I could find the video. I'm going to have to go back and find it for you guys. But I compared the two situations. Both of them had very similar cap situations. And the way the New York Jets spent their cap, they spent a ton of money on Le'Veon Bell. It was after the Le'Veon Bell offseason, so it was probably going into 2020. They spent a ton of money on two players, C.J. Mosley and Le'Veon Bell. The Bills spread out the money. They brought in a bunch of offensive linemen. They signed 3 or 4 offensive linemen between draft and free agency in that 1 year span, and they started setting their team up properly for Josh Allen. But I always liked the way the Bills constructed their roster. So if you're going to bring in somebody from an organization, the Bills are one of the better ones. Neil believes, man. What's going on, man? Stand up. It's a new day, my friend. Let's blanking go. Let's go, Neil, man. Thank you very much, buddy. I appreciate it, man. And Pencil Man says, first piece of this rebuild is in let's get the rest to complete the rest of the rebuild. First piece of this rebuild is in, you're saying we started the rebuild with the GM. Let's get to the rest to complete the rest of the build. Yeah, I mean, the rebuild's not going to happen overnight, like I said. So don't expect, again, I'm going to go in with realistic expectations next year. I was overly optimistic this year. I was excited with the free agency moves the New York Giants made. I hoped that they were going to win 9 or 10 games and everything was going to work out. I'm not going to set those expectations on the team this year. If they exceed my expectations, great. But I'm going to take a slow and steady approach, and I'm going to hope that they build this team the right way. I know a lot of Giants fans may not want to hear that. They may not want to take that approach. That's the approach that I'm going to take because I do think it's going to take a couple years to build this team up the right way. And I hope they're great next year. I hope we win the Super Bowl, but I just don't think that's realistic. Lou says, Jesse from Save the Bell, I'm so excited, and I just can't. How safe is Graham? Graham's gone. I mean, I can't say definitively that he's gone, but Graham's gone. I mean, why would you keep Graham? Why would you keep Graham? And I like Patrick Graham. Patrick Graham's a solid defensive coordinator, but you're going to allow this head coach to pick his coordinators. Why would they pick Patrick Graham? It's not like Patrick Graham has been leaps and bounds better than other guys they could potentially get out there on the open market. The head coach that comes in is going to want to bring in his guy. Patrick Graham's gone. I think every member of this coaching staff, for the most part, is gone. Yeah, I know last time around they kept a couple of guys. They kept the wide receivers coach. They kept the special teams coordinator, but I don't see that being the case. I think Graham will be gone. I think Graham will be looking for work. Abe says, if Joe picks Dable, I'd be a little leery with a first-timer again, but maybe he would bring Ken Dorsey with him to be the OC. Dorsey, one of my favorites from the U. Yeah, I mean, listen, man, I'm going to give whoever they hire as the head coach an opportunity and hope that he makes the right decision. That is the GM's most important decision, is choosing his head coach. So I'm gonna give whoever they bring in the opportunity to succeed or fail, and hopefully they get it right. That's what I'll say. Me personally, if Jim Harbaugh's listening to the New York Giants, I would love him, but I just know it's not realistic. The GM that comes in is going to want to bring in a guy that he thinks he can work well with. Harbaugh in the past has displayed he can't work well with people, so I know that's not going to happen. We'll see. We'll see who they ultimately end up choosing, but I'm going to give whoever they hire an opportunity. T says, Schoen wants a head coach to create a collaborative environment. Miami experience ain't Flores. I don't think it's going to be Flores, if you ask me right now, if I'm being completely honest. I know a lot of Giants fans want Flores. He seems to be a hot candidate. People are bringing his name up. In the end, I don't think it'll be Flores. I could be wrong, but I wouldn't be shocked, but I don't think it's going to be Flores. I'd be surprised if it's Flores. Dustin says, do you think we see them go, let them go? Do you think we see them let go of guys like Bradbury and Martinez? Yes. Bradbury's a tough one for me because it's only one more year left on his contract, but he's due $21 million. Martinez also only 1 year left on his deal, but he's coming off an injury. To me, he's more clear-cut and dry unless you could extend him and get him on a much more cost-effective salary. I think it makes all the sense in the world to move on from Martinez. I'm not saying that's definitely what they're going to do, but without ties to the GM, I don't see a GM coming in here and wanting to pay a guy coming off the injury that Martinez is coming off of $14 million next year. I just don't see it. When you could save $9.5 million, I think, or $8.5 or $9 million if you cut him. So I think Martinez is the more clear option that they're going to move on from unless they could get a more cost-effective salary and extend them. I think both possibly they could be moving on from. I would say Bradbury is more realistic that he stays, and hopefully they find a way to work out an extension that is more cost-effective. But the fact that this GM coming in never had anything to do with Bradbury leads me to believe there's a good chance he won't be in the long-term plans. Octave says probably going to be like Shane's first year in Buffalo, where they built the foundation, hoping for Dable to help whoever our quarterback is. Definitely be patient. Yeah, well, they made the playoffs in I think Josh Allen's second year. They made the playoffs, which Shane's first year was after the 2017 draft. He wasn't there for the 2017 draft. Then 2018 they took Josh Allen, and then the next year I think they made the playoffs, if I'm not mistaken. I think they made the playoffs in Allen's second year. And then third year was when Allen really took the big jump. But yeah, I think he's going to do the same thing they did in Buffalo, which excites me. And now, granted, in Buffalo, they had more cap space year one. So, they built up that offensive line rather quickly, but they really attacked the offensive line early. Their offensive line is not great now, for being honest, but they are starting to get that ground game going. But they definitely addressed the offensive line early during Schoen and Bean's tenure. And then they got it. Well, really, they got Allen and then started to address the offensive line, but they did it really quickly over a 2-year stretch. Let's see what we got here. Durant says, why draft Willis when we already have Vanilla Witt? I don't want Willis. And I know some fans do. I know some fans are all about Malik Willis. Listen, if they take Willis, I'll support him. I'll hope that I'm wrong, like I do everything else. Anytime that I think something's not going to go right for the Giants, I hope my opinion's wrong. If they draft Malik Willis, I think it's going to be a big mistake, but I will hope I'm wrong, and I'll hope that the fans and the GM, if he selects him, are right, just like I did with Daniel Jones. But I think it would be a mistake. I think it'd be a massive mistake to draft a quarterback this year. That's just my opinion on the matter. But again, I will hope that I am dead wrong if they take a quarterback. Justin says, thoughts of the Texans bringing McCown for an interview? Thoughts of the Texans bringing McCown? Hold on. I didn't even hear about this. Let's see. Texas Kentucky head coaching interview with Josh. I mean, I don't know. I honestly, I know he's a former quarterback. I honestly don't know much about McCown as far as his career. I think, didn't they bring him in last time too? They brought him in last time too, didn't they? I thought I remember McCown getting a head coaching interview a couple of years ago, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe I'm wrong on that, but I don't know much about him in terms of being a head coach. But I mean, good luck, I guess. Has nothing to do with the Giants. Let's see. Damien says, I want Dave Getty back already. I do not. I do not. And I tried to stick with Dave as long as I could and tried to give him as much of an opportunity as I could. I do not. Dave Gettleman only got the job, if we're being completely honest with ourselves, because of John Mara. That's the only reason why Dave Gettleman got the job. Go back and look at the GM search. They interviewed 2 in-house guys. They interviewed Dave Gettleman and they interviewed Louis Riddick. That was their hiring process. And I will go to my grave believing, and I thought this long before the reports came out, that the reason Gettleman got the job is because he was okay not starting a rebuild, which was clearly obvious what they should have been doing in 2018 and what I think they will be doing this time around. So, Dave was funny with his press conferences, but no, it was time to move on from Dave. It was the right move, and I hope this GM comes in and does a good job. Jesse says, let me judge we have the right Jodelman, man. What's going on, Jesse, man? Thank you very much, buddy. And let's see. Oh, dude, thank you so much. Asian lettering, man, with the, I think that's Watts. Thank you so much, Asian lettering. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Let's catch up with the chat. Brandon says, do we know what Jones really is? Dable saves him. I mean, listen, Brandon, if they bring back Daniel Jones, which I think is the right move next year, personally, I don't want to take a quarterback. I'd bring back Jones and I would bring in a solid backup. I'll be rooting my ass off for the guy. I'll hope that the guy goes out there and becomes the next Joe Montana. That's what I mean. As a Giants fan, why wouldn't you root for that? So I'll be rooting my ass off for Giants fans that have this theory that Brian Dable could come in here and magically make Daniel Jones look like a top 6, 7, 8 quarterback. I'll hope that you are right. I'll hope that he does come in here and he becomes an elite quarterback. And I see no problem giving Jones another year. It's not like he makes a whole lot of money. And why force a quarterback pick? That's always been my opinion. I go back to what I've said several times. If you in your heart, if you're a Malik Willis guy, if you're a name your quarterback, a Kenny Pickett guy, if you in your heart believe that there is not a Malik Willis or a Kenny Pickett or whatever in the next draft, take him. But if you believe that there's a quarterback as good or better, or multiple quarterbacks good or better than Malik Willis in the next draft, I see no sense in drafting the quarterback this year. That's my opinion on the quarterbacks in this year's draft. If the New York Giants feel that Malik Willis or any of these quarterbacks are better or at least comparable to the quarterbacks in the next draft, take them. If not, why would you force a quarterback pick? Why? Because at the end of the day, look around the teams in the NFL. Pat Mahomes, Josh Allen. Look at the last 8. Look at the top 8 teams right now that are competing outside of the 49ers and Titans. All of them have elite quarterbacks. So my take is, if you don't feel that these guys have elite potential, you don't take them. You don't take them. That is what my feeling will be. If they take Malik Willis, I'm going to tell my subscribers, that is Joe Schoen telling you that this guy is going to be a top 5 to 8 quarterback in the next 3 years. And if he's wrong, he'll be out of a job. And I'll hope and pray that he's right. Let's see what we got here. Wolves, man, thank you very much. The Giants are going to the Super Bowl. Relax. Abe says, hope they gave the other candidates a fair shot. Shane was the first to be interviewed. Hope we didn't fall in love with him and overlook the other guys. I think they did. I think they honestly did. I think they gave the candidates a fair shot. They brought in 9 guys. They conducted 3 second interviews. Peters was a very credible candidate. He certainly could have gotten the job. I would have been completely fine with any of the 3 had they hired him. I think they did a fair search. I always thought Shane was, like I said, once I did my research and saw the candidates that they were bringing in, I thought Shane was the favorite. And I thought he was as qualified as anybody else. I thought Peters and Shane were the most qualified. And there's no reason to be upset that they hired Shane. I think he's a guy with a lot of potential. And could get this team going down the right path. Juan says, feels odd to be a New York Giants fan and to be excited slightly. Now time to see who our quarterback and head coach will be. Yeah, I mean, first we got to find out who the head coach is going to be, and then we'll see what happens in the offseason. And it might be Daniel Jones next year. Don't get upset if it is. That's just them telling you we're going to give Jones another year. We're going to hope that he takes a monumental leap, and if he doesn't, well, at least then we have a team better equipped to support the quarterback that we're bringing in. Either way, I'm going to support it. If they take a quarterback, I'll have to hope that they're right. And the guy ends up being an elite quarterback prospect. So it's going to be a very fun offseason because there's a lot of unknowns. You don't know what the New York Giants are going to do now. You don't know if we're taking a quarterback. You don't know, if we're sticking with Jones. You don't know how they're going to build this team. So I'm excited. I'm excited to see the defensive coordinator we bring in. A lot of my subscribers talk about, should the New York Giants go back to the 4-3? Should the New York Giants stay in the 3-4? I'm excited about that. I'm excited to see what type of defense we're going to run, what type of offensive mind we're bringing in to be the offensive coordinator / head coach. So it's going to be a fun offseason to see the direction of this football team. That's for damn sure. Raiden says, Peters was 1A, Shane was 1B for me. Happy with Shane, and for me, Flores is number 1. Dable's up there as well. I think today was a good day. There's no reason to think today was a bad day. No reason at all. You got a complete change at the GM. The New York Giants did exactly what they were supposed to do. They went outside the organization. It was a good move. And now we got to hope there's results. But, now we're going to judge him based on what he does with the New York Giants. But they did the right thing. They went outside the organization. Nick, man, thank you very much, man, for the $5 donation. And Asian Lettering says, how do you think about trading for Derek Carr if he's available? Yeah, people have asked me about Derek Carr. To me, I don't want to trade for Derek Carr because Derek Carr, to me, like I said about the quarterbacks that are still in the playoffs, only gets you so far. Derek Carr to me is like a little bit better than Garoppolo. Like he's like a top 12 to 15 quarterback. And those guys, to me, they don't move the needle enough. I'm not giving up high draft capital to bring in a guy like that. He makes the team marginally better. Don't get me wrong. But to me, it's not a big enough jump at the quarterback position. He's not an elite. If I'm trading for a quarterback, he needs to be elite, or he at least needs the potential to be elite. And I don't see that with Derek Carr. So I don't see the sense in making a move like that, personally. Now, if you were to sign a guy like that, that's a different story. But I'm not trading for a guy like that. No. I think he's a perfect potential stopgap quarterback for a team, though. That's kind of the way that I look at Carr. He's a high-end stopgap. Don't get me wrong. He's definitely a much better option than a guy like Bridgewater or someone like that. But he kind of fits the mold of like a Kerry Collins. That's kind of how I see Derek Carr. Kerry Collins, when he came to the Giants, obviously had problems off the field, but we saw while he was with the Giants, he was kind of in that same 12 to 15 area. That's kind of how I feel about Carr, but I'm not trading significant draft capital to bring in a guy like that. Octave, thank you very much, man. Consider Flores' history of below-average offense and being abrasive to management and players. I'm not a fan. He feels he overachieved in Miami. Consider Flores' history of below-average offense and being abrasive to management and players. I'm not a fan. I think he did overachieve in Miami, to be completely honest with you. But I do think there's red flags, like you said. I think, like you said, the biggest red flag for me with Flores, and I like Flores, but the biggest red flag for me with Flores is how he handled his quarterback. And I understand that reports have come out that he didn't like Tua, that was not his guy. But once you make that shift in a quarterback's rookie season, when he benched Fitzpatrick and he brought in Tua Tagovailoa, you can't go back to Fitzpatrick. You can't do that. That completely screws up the development of your quarterback. We saw it happen with the New York Giants. The New York Giants had Kurt Warner in there. Warner was doing fairly well. The New York Giants were like 5-3, 5-4. They made the shift. Eli Manning had one of the worst rookie years in NFL history. But Tom Coughlin did not think twice about going back to Kerry Collins. Once you make that change, once you insert that rookie quarterback into the lineup, you don't then go back and bring in the veteran. That was my biggest knock on Flores. That was the one decision, and it was a big one that I really disagreed with in his handling of his rookie quarterback. I didn't think that was the right decision. If you had any debate, and I think Fitzpatrick got hurt, if I'm not mistaken, which is why Tua got his first opportunity. I could be wrong. No, actually, no. He came in at the start of a game, I think. So, no, that is not the case. And if you feel that there's a chance you could go back from the rookie quarterback, you just leave Fitzpatrick in there. That was my biggest issue with Flores. Nerve Swag, man, thank you very much, man. We'll need a rock star OC if no offensive head coach. Quarterback options round 3 to 5. I'm okay with taking a quarterback round 3 to 5. I'm completely fine with that. I would much prefer that to taking a quarterback round 1 in this draft, because if you take a quarterback round 1, you're committed to him for multiple years. If you take a quarterback round 3 to 5 with some potential upside, he at least serves as a competent backup, even if he can't supplant Daniel Jones, and maybe he can. So I have no issue taking a quarterback round 3 to 5, but I'm not in the boat of taking one round 1. Antoine says, with Flores getting an interview, and if he got the job, how would you feel about him getting Watson since he wants him? I would trade back to and get offensive linemen. Before he's getting an interview, and if he got the job, how would you feel about him getting Watson? Listen, man, I'm not going to lie to you guys. Like, if the New York Giants got Deshaun Watson, like, I know there's going to be some fans that are like, how could you bring in a guy like that with his criminal history and everything else? Listen, if you get a top 5 quarterback that's 25 years old, opportunities don't come around like that every so often. So if he's completely cleared of his legal troubles and you could get him in here for a fair price, yeah, you have to at least think about it. Do I think it'll happen? No. So I don't even want to start to think about it, because I don't think it's going to happen. If it happens, yeah, I mean, I think most Giant fans would be excited if you bring in a quarterback like that. Even if the team's not ready to compete and say we win 5 or 6 games his first year, the guy's 25. The one thing is he's no longer on his rookie contract, so you have that negative with it. But yeah, I mean, I'd be lying to you if I said, do I think Deshaun Watson would significantly improve this football team? Yeah. Of course. Of course. Nick, man, thank you very much, man. I maintain my position that we are an O-line rebuild away from being competitive. Keep our D off the field. Offensive skill players, including DJ, can win. I hope you're right, Nick. Now, listen, man, here's what I'll say. If we get a strong offensive line, our team's going to be a lot better. I'll tell you that right now. You look at the Eagles. Why did the Eagles compete this year? Because they had a strong offensive line, because they could run the football, so on and so forth. You get a strong offensive line, you build the line up properly. Not only are you going to make Daniel Jones' job a lot easier, you're going to make the guy who inevitably more than likely replaces Daniel Jones' job a lot easier. So, to me, that should be the focal point this offseason. However the GM wants to attack it, I'll support it. If he doesn't feel like he wants to take 2 offensive linemen in the first round, I understand it. But you better address that early, and you better get that situated. And I think any GM with a brain will look at this roster and say, yeah, that needs to be one of the primary focuses in terms of my offseason objective. So I expect them to try to address that offensive line. And I hope, I do think we could be a competitive football team if we stay healthy, which is a huge question mark with Daniel Jones as well. But I do think we could be a competitive football team if we had a decent offensive line, which we don't. Sean, man, thank you very much, man. Pump 2 top 7 picks plus $100 million after next year. Let's go. Yeah, we're going to have a lot of money in cap space. I think a lot of people that, talk about how we're in cap hell. This year, it's tight. Don't get me wrong. But this year, when you really think about it, Shaw, this is the year where you don't want them to spend. This is the year where you want to get comp picks for the future. Let these guys walk. Let Evan Ingram walk. Let all these guys walk. All these free agents. Let them all walk. Get your 4th round, your 5th round comp picks for the following draft. Continue to accrue draft capital. And then the next year, you start to fill in holes at free agency. I think that is the proper approach for the New York Giants. I'm not saying don't go out there and spend it all. If you get a guy in a bargain deal for a 1-year deal, sure. Similar to what Gettleman did with guys like Logan Ryan the first time around and what Marcus Golden and contracts like that, sure. You try to bring in guys on bargain deals, but I don't want the New York Giants to go out there and spend this offseason. We don't have much money to do it. I don't want them to backload salaries. I want them to keep the books relatively clean. That way you can start to really get aggressive the second year with this football team. And like I said, continue to accrue draft capital. Davey, man, this is a great moment. Joe Schoen equals change. I called it incidentally. This is a very promising start. Seems like Mara got the message. Yeah, I mean, listen, I think in the end, I think what really caused Joe Judge to lose his job is not so much the fan base, even though the fan base definitely brought a lot of pressure. I think once it became a national media story, that's when John Mara had his hands tied and he was forced to make the move. That's what I think happened. I think once it became a running meme and the 11-minute tirade and then the QB sneak on 3rd and 9 at their own 8-yard line, once it became a national story, I think that's when he was bound to lose his job. Brandon says Joe Schoen will become a lifetime legend if he fixes the New York Giants. And you got to believe and hope that he will, man. Angel says, what's up, Dana? Peters or Joe? We got the GM. We need to be patient. This year, he has cleared up the money on this roster, hoping he gets some offensive line. Yeah, I mean, that's all I'm going to talk about this offseason. Offensive line, offensive line, offensive line, offensive line, offensive line. I'm going to drive the point home until they address it. Because since I've been on YouTube, that's mainly what I've talked about. And the New York Giants have not fixed it. Have they tried? Sure, they did, but it didn't work. And you have to keep trying until you fix it. So you have an opportunity in this draft to take at least one in the top 5 picks to pair with Andrew Thomas on the other side. That is the route that I would take. That is the route that I want the New York Giants to take. I completely understand fans who don't want to take 2 in the first round. I even personally agree with it. If you could get a high-end defensive talent to upgrade that defense on the other side, but you better spend a lot of draft capital on the offensive line this year. That's what I'll say, Angel, for sure. I want at least 3 out of these 9 picks to be offensive linemen, and relatively early. I'll tell you that right now. MYG31 says, I'm so happy that Joe Schoen is the new GM. You and me both, man. It's about time. It's about damn time that we got an outsider in here. Trent says, would you think about drafting a cornerback and cutting Bradbury? I don't want to take a cornerback in the first round. Now, listen, we'll talk about that more as the draft approaches. I know that there's that one really high-end cornerback prospect. If the New York Giants feel he could be the next lockdown corner, maybe they could go that route. And, maybe that's their defensive player that they take with the offensive lineman. I think in the end, the New York Giants are going to take one offensive lineman. If you were asking me to do a mock draft today, they're going to take one offensive lineman, and they're going to take the best available defensive player on their board. That's what I think they're going to do with the 2 picks. And I think they'll at least explore potentially trading down if there's a trade there. If you want to talk draft, that is what I think today is where the New York Giants' heads are at. Now, if they trade down, anything's a possibility with that second pick. Maybe you do double up on the offensive line. But if you ask me right now, I think it'll be the best available defensive player on their board and an offensive lineman with those 2 picks. Jatone says, cut who I can, then sign a lineman or 2, then draft 1 and draft a quarterback if they want to. Yeah, I mean, here's the thing, Jatone. If you sign a lineman this year, you're not going to get a long-term answer. You're not going to get a long-term answer on the offensive line because we have no money. We have no money. And the limited money that we were going to get, you might be able to bring in a stopgap guy that could be good for a year or 2, but you're not going to get a long-term answer in free agency this year at least because we don't have much money. You're not going to get a high-end free agent offensive lineman. And more often than not, when you sign a high-end free agent offensive lineman, they typically don't work out because the teams that have the good ones don't let them hit free agency. Build through the draft with the line specifically. Build through the draft. Now, once you start to get that offensive line established, if you want to get the final piece in free agency, like the Giants did with Kareem McKenzie way back when, yeah. But let's set the foundation with the line through the draft. Let's see what we got here. I don't know how to pronounce that, but Fenn, I'll say, says Quinn is a no for me. Flores is a maybe as long as they ace the coordinator spots. Maybe Dable comes as a no, I don't think so. I don't think Dable would come here to be an offensive coordinator. He's already on. Why? If you're Brian Dable, think about it logically. If you're Brian Dable, why would you make a lateral move with, like you said, an assistant head coach position, whatever? Why would you do that? Right now, you're in a cushy spot. You're in Buffalo. You're the offensive coordinator for a team that you helped build. You are coaching one of the top 5 quarterbacks in the NFL. You're a team that's consistently in the playoffs, and you're continuing to build up your resume to potentially be a head coach. What job sounds more attractive to you? Coming to the New York Giants as an offensive coordinator, the same position you currently have with the Buffalo Bills, or just staying with the team that is very familiar with your offense, having one of the best teams in the NFL? You stay with Buffalo. The only way Dable would ever leave Buffalo is to be a head coach. There's no way you're getting a lateral move from Dable, in my opinion, if that's what you were asking. Now, if you were asking head coach coordinator, yes. I don't know what you were asking. If you were asking, will he be the head coach and coordinator at the same time? I would expect that to be the case. We would still probably hire an offensive coordinator, but I would expect Dable to be the head coach and the play caller at the same time. So if that was your question, that's my answer to that. And G-Man for life, man. Thank you very much, man. Salute, Chris. Long time. Great news today. So let's go start this rebuild. We need to move forward 100%. Let's go New York Giants, man. It's a good day to be a New York Giants fan, man, and I'm excited. And thank you so much for popping in, man. I appreciate it. Zuhaib says, let's go. Let's get Dable or Flores. What's up, Chris Breezy? What's going on, Zuhaib, man? Listen, man, I can't wait to get the list of head coaches. I can't wait. So I can start to talk about them on the channel with you guys, make videos on them. I can't wait to get the final list of all the head coaches they're bringing in. And I would expect that list to start formulating today, potentially, if not, definitely within the next 2 or 3 days. Ben says, Graham was not very good. Us Giants fans just have such a low bar for success. Listen, I thought Graham did a good job his first year. He was decent this year, but he's not a guy that the New York Giants are going to hold on to. They're not. They're not going to hold on to him. John, man, what's going on, man? He says, okay, now let's get to work. Hashtag save our Giants. Man, I sure hope so, man. I hope Dable comes in here and, not Dable, rather. Shane comes in here and we get the Shane train cooking and they finally get this team going down the right path. And, oh, man, I hope so, man, because it's tough coming on here every week after week after week after week, dealing with a rabid fan base, dealing with a team that sucks, having to talk about this team for the last 4 years. I want to talk about something nice for once. I want to be able to feel like we have an opportunity to actually do something going into the year. It felt nice at least having that feeling going into this year. Of course, it didn't work out that way. So I hope they just build this team the right way, man. I hope they build this team like the way the Buffalo Bills did. Killian says, would you extend Blake for 2 years, $20 million, $10 million guaranteed? Would I? Yeah, I wouldn't be opposed to something like that. I mean, he's due to make 14. So if he's willing to take 4 less per year on average, and you'd probably have the ability to get out after this year, you would still save $4 million on this year's cap because he's due 14. If you cut him, you save 8.5. So you're only talking a difference of $4 million in savings, and you get to keep an inside linebacker for another year with the option to keep him for 2. Yeah, I'd be open to something like that. That doesn't mean that Shane will be. Being that he's got no ties to him. But yes, I would be completely open to doing something like that. And that's kind of what I was talking about. Maybe not that exact deal, but something similar to that is the only way I could see Martinez being back with the New York Giants. Eric says, What do you see happening to Saquon next year? As a big Penn State fan, I honestly wouldn't mind seeing him leave and succeeding at a better team. I think Saquon's back next year with the Giants because think of it like stocks. If you're selling right now, you're selling at an incredible low price. It doesn't make sense to sell Saquon right now, in my opinion. I think Saquon's back next year. I think the theory going into next year is let's get this offensive line established. Let's hope that Saquon Barkley, year 2, removed from that injury, shows what we know he can potentially be. And then that's when I would look to trade him. I don't think Saquon Barkley will be in the long-term plans of this team. And I love Saquon. Saquon's my favorite player in the team, but I think it's the right decision not to extend this guy long-term. Being that, I mean, look at the best teams in the league. What teams pay a running back top tier money, especially a team that's as far away as the New York Giants currently are? If the New York Giants were a team that was competing and he was a big part of that, that's a different story. But a team as far away as the New York Giants are, how does it make sense to tie up 8 to 10% of your cap space in a running back? In my opinion, it doesn't. Fix the offensive line, start to draft offensive. Do what the Niners did. Look at the 49ers. They drafted Elijah Mitchell, a guy that I wanted to draft, by the way. The Niners, I believe, took him a pick before we picked in the 6th round. He went to the same college as our offensive line coach, so I always tied that together. And I said, Mitchell, he's a guy that you want to keep your eye on for the New York Giants, but obviously didn't work out. The Niners took it, but look what the Niners did. They take a guy in the 6th round. The guy looks great. Fix the offensive line, build up the offensive line, and get value at that position. I think that's the right approach, and I think that's the approach the New York Giants probably long-term will take. As much as I love Barkley, I don't think he's going to be in the long-term plans, but I do think he'll be back next year with the Giants. And if he's having a great year and the New York Giants are, kind of middle of the pack or struggling, I think that's when you look to try to trade him. Frank says, I don't want Flores because I think they're going to rush the process with him. Won't work unless Watson comes. With Dable, I think it would be much more patient. I don't think we're going to hire Flores. I really don't. I know a lot of Giants fans want him because they hear about the Watson rumors and they think quick fix and they think about bringing in this great quarterback, and I understand it. I don't see it happening. I don't think we're going to hire Flores. I think it's going to be Dable. If I had to guess right now, I think it'll be Dable. Let me get a list of the candidates. I don't think it'll be Flores. I really don't. I won't be upset if it's Flores, but I don't think it'll be Flores. In terms of them being patient, I mean, I think you got to be patient no matter what. No matter who the head coach is, the fan base at least has to be patient. Between the GM and the head coach, it's a completely new team. You have to be patient. I don't think we have much of a choice as a fan base. Obviously, there's going to be some fans who are never patient. But I think the majority of fans, if they see that there's something being built and they feel like this is trending towards the right path, they'll give them a little bit of leeway. So we'll see. We'll see what they do in the offseason, who they bring in for the head coach, and I'm excited to see the direction of this team. Chris says, if Dable is the coach, Chance Graham is back. I really don't think so. I guess anything's possible. Like you said, the ties to New England, but I doubt it, man. I really do. And I know a lot of people like Patrick Graham, and Patrick Graham did a good job with the Giants. I'd be surprised. I'm not saying it's impossible, but I'd be surprised. I'd be surprised if Graham is back. I mean, at the end of the day, we talk about wanting change. Graham was the assistant coach to the football team that we just moved on from. I don't see it. I think we're going to completely move on. Alphabet, man, they very much agree about the quarterback. I don't really want to see any new quarterback until our offensive line is capable of crushing our enemies and driving them before us. Or at least starting to go down that path, Alphabet, unless there is an elite quarterback. If there's an elite quarterback, you always take him. Always. I don't care what your team looks like. If you identify, like the Bills did. The Bills didn't have an established offensive line when they took Josh Allen. They identified that Josh Allen had the potential to be an elite quarterback, and they took him. If you feel that way, you always take the quarterback. But if you don't feel that way, you don't take him. That's my mindset on it, and we'll see. My mindset is going to be, if they take a quarterback with that 5th pick, that guy better be close to a guy like Josh Allen. That guy better be a top 5, 6, 7 quarterback in the NFL by year 3. And if he's not, it was a horrible draft pick. So if it was me, like you said, I would start to build up the rest of the team. Ayub, man, thank you very much, man. Willis equals Watson. I'm manifesting it right now. I hope you're right if we take him. Johnny says, in Schoen we trust. Now let's get the right coach and win a Super Bowl in 3 years. Maybe Joe hires Poles as an assistant GM. Now that's more realistic. Not saying it'll happen, but that's more realistic because at least that's a legitimate I guess, promotion, even though I doubt it. I don't think that'll happen. He's going to bring in his guys, but we'll see. Kick Kevin to the kick. Yeah. As far as Abrams goes and the scouts and everything else, get rid of all of them. Completely clean house, like I said in the other stream with Joe Judge. Get rid of the Pepsi. Bring in Coke. Clean everything out. Get rid of all the assistants. Get rid of Pettit. Get rid of all of them. Abrams, the scouts, everybody. Start from scratch. New York Janky. Thank you so much, man. I appreciate it, man. Thank you very much. Ian O'Connor. Somebody said Ian O'Connor. Let me see if Ian O'Connor said something I don't know about. Hold on one second, guys. Ian O'Connor. Ian O'Connor's been dropping a couple of things that were pretty on point as of late. Personally, if Brian Flores told me to run through a brick wall, I'd do it right away. If Dable told me to run through a brick wall, I'd ask 5 to 10 questions first, and then maybe I'd do it. He also says, John Mara reached out to Brian Flores a couple of nights ago. A source told the Post. Very good conversation. Mara assured Flores that he's a serious candidate and that the Giants will be willing to eat money to clear up some cap space. If that's accurate, Mara doesn't sound like he wants a rebuild. If he's willing to eat, if he's willing to backload salaries to try to compete this year, that gets me nervous actually a little bit. Simon, thank you very much, man. Getty was a cancer to this franchise. Very good, very glad right now. It was time to move on. It was time to move on, and obviously he had cancer as well, so I don't even want to make a joke of that. But it was time to move on. It was time to start over. New York Yankee says, who do you want to be our head coach? Let me get the list first. But I'm not going to be a guy that pounds the table for one individual candidate. I'm going to be a guy that is going to say, all right, we got a new GM. I'm going to let that GM pick his head coach that he feels is best fit. I'm not qualified to tell you who the best head coach should be. I don't have those interviews. I'm not in there talking to those guys. The GM is. So I'm going to let him pick the guy that he wants. But I'm going to continue to say I want an offensively minded head coach. That is my preference. If they go defense with a guy like Flores, then you better bring in a really good OC. That's my mindset on it. But let me see the list first. I know Flores is a hot name, like I said, Dable. There's going to be several others. So let's see who the candidates are going to be before I give you guys, I guess, my pecking order of who I want. But regardless of who they hire, I'm going to give them an opportunity to get the job done. Het says, hey, Chris, been a while. I hope we don't get Flores. What's going on, Het, man? Glad to see you, buddy. I don't know. I don't know who we're going to get. I really don't. Flores sounds like he's at least a possibility. Felipe says, did you notice that ESPN showed that Schoen was hired back on January 5th? It was actually January 7th, I think, January 7th or 8th. But yeah, a couple of people pointed that out on Twitter. I don't know, man. I think it was a mistake by ESPN. Maybe some people may say that they have inside sources and they leaked it. I don't know. Regardless, he's here. I'm happy that he's here now. I think it was just an honest mistake, and I don't think that there's a conspiracy there with that. But maybe there was. Maybe ESPN had inside sources and they posted it by accident. Possible. My guess would be, and I don't know this, I think it was January 7th, the date that they posted. And I didn't check this, but my guess would be is that is probably the day that the New York Giants announced that they were going to bring in Joe Schoen for an interview. And maybe it was like a typo or a mistake on ESPN's part. Regardless, he's here. I'm happy he's here. Dylan said, yeah, I just read the Ian O'Connor tweet. So it sounds like Flores is a legitimate candidate. I thought he was definitely going to get an interview. We'll see if he gets the job. A kid called Chris, man. What's going on, man? What great news to come home from work to buzzing. Who's your favorite head? I mean, right now, I think the favorite has to be Dable. And maybe Flores is up there too. Those seem to be the two names that you're hearing the most. But I think the favorite is probably Dable because of his ties to Schoen. But I don't think there's an overwhelming favorite. Like with the GM search, I thought that there was an overwhelming favorite like 2 or 3 days in. I'm like, yeah, Schoen's probably going to get the job. So I don't feel that way with the head coach. Just because we hired Schoen doesn't mean Dable's a guarantee, but I'd be leaning that he's a slight favorite right now. Let's see. And Mark, man, thank you so much, man. What's going on, buddy, man? Thanks for popping in the stream, my man. Let's see. Coded Trout says, hey, Dana, I was thinking the other night, would you ever be down to do a review on all the Giants Super Bowl winning seasons, summarizing the regular season, playoffs, and Super Bowl? It's not a bad, I'll write it down. It's not a bad off-season video idea. I'll write it down. One thing that I was going to do, and I hate doing these videos, by the way, but I know people like them, and I think it's creative, and it's fun to do. I'm going to write it down right now. Summarizing regular season playoffs for the Super Bowl teams. But one video I was thinking about doing was like one of those videos where you could go back and change the picks and you know and see how the roster could have been built under Dave Gettleman. But here's the thing and the problem with those videos. The problem with those videos is based off the decisions that you would have made in 2018, it could have completely changed the decisions that you could have possibly made in 2019, right? Because let's say in 2018, you're a fan that says we should have traded down, which we should have, and taken Quentin Nelson, and say you get Nick Chubb, and you probably get another player because you probably would have got an additional second round pick, whoever it may be. Chances are you're not picking as high as you were in 2019 because your team is probably better had you drafted better. So for all you know, you're picking 15 instead of 6 in 2019. And then, you know, for everybody that says we could have gotten Herbert, well, if you would have drafted properly the first 2 years, you're probably not getting Herbert the third year. So that's why always those hypothetical videos to me are kind of silly because what you do in the first year could completely change how things would have worked out the following years. Hey, Matt, thank you very much, man. I'm curious what free agent from Buffalo Joe may target. I haven't even looked at the potential Buffalo free agents. I'll take a quick look now. I haven't even looked. Buffalo Bills free agents 2022. All right, so yeah, I mean, obviously makes sense because he works for Buffalo. They have 16 pending free agents right now. The highest profile guy, I mean, Mitch Trubisky, people have talked about him as a potential backup. Emmanuel Sanders, Mario Addison, he's an older defensive end. Jerry Hughes, older defensive end. They don't really have anybody. They don't really have anybody that's like younger that maybe a stopgap guy here and there, but they don't really have anybody. Nobody that makes you excited at least. And Mark, man, thank you very much, man. Carson Strong for developmental backup quarterback outside of the first, maybe even second. Yeah, Carson Strong is a guy I've looked a little bit about. A lot of people told me about him. He's got a huge, I don't know. I don't want to say Josh Allen arm, but he's got a big arm. He arguably has the strongest arm in this year's draft class, at least from what I've seen. And he's probably going to go in the second or third round, but you don't know. You know, all it takes is him to impress one team at the combine and absolutely destroy it. And, you know, he may move up in the pecking order. He may go top 10. So you don't know, man. Things could change drastically leading up into the draft. But, yeah, if the Giants did something like that, like you said, second or third round, you're not going to see me cry about it, for sure. Brendan, man, thank you very much, man. Stand up, new member. Welcome to the squad. Mark says, I want one of the tackles and Linderbaum. That's what I want. That's what I want. It may not be what we get, but that's what I want. In an ideal world, like you said, Chris, what's your dream draft scenario? Take the best tackle on your board at 5. Trade down at 7, get down to 12 or 13 or whatever, and still get Linderbaum and get a future first-round pick. That is a picture-perfect draft for me. Larry, man, thank you very much, man. Joe Schoen has released a statement. It is on Big Blue Review. If you want to go over it, it's what you want to hear from a GM. All right, let me take a quick look. Big Blue Review. Is that on Twitter? Is that on – hold on. Let me take a look. Big Blue Review. I don't know. I don't see it. And maybe it's bigbluereview.com. Yeah, I don't see it. I wish I could pull it up. I'm sure, Larry, I'm sure it'll pop up during the stream, though. I'm sure somebody else will point me to it if you released an official statement, but I don't see it right now. I'm trying to find Big Blue Review on Twitter. Thomas, man, thank you very much, man. Says, do you think the Giants will go after Flores and get Watson, who wants to play? I do not. Again, it's possible, but I'm not gonna start putting that out in the air that I think it's a likely. No, I don't think we'll get Deshaun Watson. We may get Flores. I don't think we'll get Deshaun Watson. We may. Anything's possible, but I doubt it. Dominic, man, thank you very much, man. Let's go, Tata. What do you think about Karlaftis? Karlaftis is a 4-3 defensive end. He's a 4-3 defensive end. I don't want him. I think he's a really good story. I do not want him at 7. Now, if you trade it down, like I said, to 13, 14, have at it. And I don't even know what our defensive scheme is going to be. So who knows? We may run a 4-3, or we may feel like he fits the scheme of our team going forward. Maybe my opinion will change going to the draft night. But if you ask me right now, no, I don't want to take him in the top 7. Quite frankly, I don't think he fits our defense right now. Rock and Dad, thank you very much, man. What is your opinion on Dan Quinn becoming the head coach? You know, a lot of people, when the news came out about Dan Quinn, a lot of people flipped out on Twitter. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to make a video on this. And I understand it's the first head coaching candidate that came out. So if people don't hear the exact name that they like, if it wasn't announced that it was Flores or Dable, people were going to flip out. But Dan Quinn, to me, not my ideal candidate, not the guy that I want personally. But to bring the guy in for an interview is completely understandable. People act like the guy is complete trash. No, the guy is not complete trash. The guy did a great job this year with the Dallas Cowboys. Everybody in their right mind thought Dallas's defense was going to be horrible this year. The Dallas Cowboys defense this year was, what, top 10? Definitely in the top half of the league. Went to a Super Bowl with the Atlanta Falcons. Yes, I know they choked away a 28-3 lead, which I put more in Shanahan than Quinn himself. I thought the offensive play calling in that game was absolutely putrid. But would he be my ideal candidate? No. He's a defensive head coach. Like I say, I want an offensively driven head coach. But I definitely think he's a suitable candidate to at least bring in for an interview. I mean, 3 other teams brought him in. I think the Broncos brought him in. Chicago brought him in. Minnesota brought him in. So I think there's 7 or 8 head coaching vacancies. Half the teams already brought him in. So I just think it's the New York Giants doing their due diligence and bringing in the guys that they feel are the most qualified candidates. I don't think Dan Quinn will get the job. I'd be surprised. But I think he was at least worthy of bringing in to talk to. Jeremiah, man, thank you very much, man. Y'all hired the wrong Joe. There will be judgment. What's going on, Jeremiah? Big Eagles fan. And I know you're upset that we got Shane. John says, why is Mara getting involved in the head coaching opening? If Shane wants Dable, that's who he should hire. Hope Shane isn't pressured. I don't think that's the case, John. I really don't. And listen, I've been a guy that's been very critical of Mara since I've been on YouTube. I don't think that's the case. As far as bringing in Dan Quinn for an interview, I don't think that was Mara going above the general manager. I think it was the New York Giants after talking to every GM candidate, and they probably knew at that point in time that they were going to hire Shane, or at least strongly were considering it. They were like, okay, let's start getting the ball rolling. We've seen that Dan Quinn has already gotten 3 interviews with other teams. Let's get him in here to get an interview. Let's set something up. I've already talked to Shane. I know he's a guy that he at least has some interest in. Let's bring him in and let's talk to him. I don't think so. I think Joe Shane is running the show. That's my belief right now. And I understand fans that may be skeptical or critical, but I really honestly don't believe that's the case. I think Mara's done a horrible job in the past, but I really think this is Joe Shane's show. They brought an outsider with no ties whatsoever. They completely cleaned house. They fired Joe Judge, something that I don't think Mara wanted to do. I think it's Joe Shane's show. I do. I really do. Let's see what we got. And L.A. Lou says, do you want Shane to hire an offensive coordinator, rookie head coach like Dable, Kevin O'Connell, Bieniemy, or instead an experienced head coach with some success like Caldwell? It's a good question. There's no perfect science. You know what I'm saying? There is no perfect science, Lou, in terms of hiring a head coach. You could point to several instances where there was look around the league. There are so many coaches that did not have head coaching experience that are great head coaches. Look around the league. McVay, LaFleur, go down the list. So many, right? And then there's other instances where there's been guys that have had success before that were really good head coaches that didn't work out at their previous location, stepped into a new one and did a great job. So I don't think there's a perfect science. I don't think there's a perfect science. I think there's going to be really good candidates that do not have head coaching experience, and I think there's going to be really good candidates that do. And I think it's going to be up to Shane to decide the guy that he feels is the best head coach candidate that could come in and push forward with his vision. I don't think there's a perfect science. I think you can go right either way. Me personally, I know a lot of Giants fans are going to feel this way after the fact that Joe Judge failed. I understand people that are leaning, let's get a guy in here that's done it before. And that's probably where my head is at as well. Like I've said, Jim Harbaugh, even though I know it's not going to happen. But either way, it could work out. I'm gonna give the guy, whoever they bring in, an opportunity. Vic Fangio is our next DC. I love that. I freaking love that. I mean, I mean, you talk about a guy that would pair with Harbaugh, that'd be it. But I love Vic Fangio. Deep dish, man, thank you very much. Any preferences for the offensive coordinator? I have no idea right now. I mean, if we hire Dable, he's essentially the offensive coordinator. But I have no idea right now. I have no idea. I got to see who the head coach is going to be first before I can start answering coordinator questions. I don't know. But if Dable's the coach, he's the OC. And right now, if you ask me, I think he's at least the slight favorite. But if he's not the head coach, if they bring in Flores, bring in a guy here with a modern-day offensive mind, I'll say that. But I haven't even looked into potential offensive coordinator candidates. Tyler says, thoughts on Todd Bowles rumors? I don't think it'll happen. Again, I think he's a guy that's more than qualified to come in for a head coaching interview. Todd Bowles had moderate success with the Jets. He got them to win 10 games, right? He's done a really good job with the Tampa Bay Bucks. He's a very good defensive coordinator. We know that over his history through the NFL. I see no problem bringing him in for an interview, but do I think the New York Giants will hire him? No. I think that's a PR nightmare. That's a guy that the fans would jump on within a year. Within a year, they would jump on him. They would be, because he failed with the Jets. They would jump on him. It would be a mess. I don't see it happening. I don't think the New York Giants will do that. But again, I think he's a solid guy to bring in for an interview. Abe says, I know you don't want Flores, but I don't not want Flores. He's just not my first choice, but I like Flores. I like Flores a lot. I know you don't want Flores, but he won a lot of games in a tough division with a mediocre team. I think he could be a really good coach, especially I like Flores a lot. I've always been a guy that's talked highly about Flores. So I think Flores is a really good head coach. He won 5 games with Miami his first year there, a team that nobody thought was going to win a game. He won 10 games his second year. He won 9 games this year after the team started 1-7 and completely could have quit on him. They won 8 out of their last 9 games, and they beat the New England Patriots the last game of the year, a game in which New England desperately needed to potentially win the division. So, no, man, I would not be upset at all if they hired Flores, at all. But there are red flags, like I've talked about. Eric says, Patrick Graham back to New England to fix their defense. Yeah, more than likely. I mean, who knows? Maybe he gets a head coaching job. I haven't heard his name thrown about. But he could. You know, there's guys every year that you're like, how did he get a head coaching job? Not that he's not qualified. He's done a decent job with the Giants. But if he doesn't get a head coaching job, I think Joe Judge could definitely go back to New England. I think Graham could definitely go back to New England. It's what a lot of those guys do when they fail. Big Blue in the PA says, getting Harbaugh would be great, but that's fantasy land. It's in the same world Pizzle lives in, dreaming about Eli Manning naked. Yeah, I agree. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Big Blue in the PA, I agree. It's fantasy land. It's not going to happen. I don't think the GM is going to want to bring in a guy that's had the issues that he's had with the front office before. If Harbaugh was ever a possibility, I don't even think you'd hire a GM. I think he'd essentially be the GM. So I don't see it happening at all. Ryan says, Flores was hired for a reason. Don't hire him. Was fired for a reason, rather. Don't hire him. I mean, you could say that about any coach, though, Ryan, right? If we're being fair, like, every coach is fired for a reason. So by that logic, you're never going to hire anybody. Every coach, you know, at least in terms of hiring a guy that's had a head coaching position before. So if you went by that, maybe it just didn't work out with that situation. Maybe Flores was a guy that felt like he didn't have enough say in terms of choosing the quarterback. If you're a head coach, you want to have that say. And that was kind of what came out. If he didn't like Tua, I don't blame him for being a little bit upset that he was forced him, you know, as his quarterback. Just because he failed somewhere else doesn't mean that he wouldn't succeed here. I don't even think he failed. I just don't think he got along with upper management. OG says, how you feel about a possible Flores Watson? Yeah, that's been the hot topic of conversation, the hot question throughout the stream. And listen, man, if they get Watson, I know the fan base is going to be electrified. They're going to be pumped up. If they did it, yeah, I'd be excited. I mean, you instantly got a top 5 quarterback in the NFL, provided that his legal troubles are past him. I don't think it'll happen, but I think it'd be exciting. Eric says, what do you believe is the top 5 moves Schoen should do to start to fix the cap? Hell, he has to start from. Basically do nothing, Eric. Don't go out there and start signing guys to 4 and 5 year contracts. The first year, be cost effective, make smart signings, 1-year deals, guys that are going to flip over the next year, because you're not in a place right now to compete for a Super Bowl. Start building your roster the way that you feel necessary. So I don't want them to go out there and sign any huge high-profile free agents this year. I just don't. 1-year deals, 2-year deals, fine. I don't want 4 or 5-year deals. I don't want Kenny Golladay contracts. I don't want Adoree Jackson contracts. And the only way you're going to be able to do that is to shed a ton of cap space by cutting guys and backloading salaries that are currently on this roster. And I think that's a bad decision. So basically do nothing. Let these guys walk, get the comp picks, restructure some deals of guys that you feel like, you know, a guy like Bradbury or Martinez, for example, if you could restructure their deals, get their cost average down, that's something that I think that they should consider. But in terms of the cuts, I mean, the cuts are obvious. You know, I've gone over them several times. Rudolph's got to be cut. Dixon's got to be cut. One of Bradbury or Martinez has probably got to be cut. There's several others, but basically do nothing this year. Don't go out there and spend. Don't go out there and spend in free agency. Start building this team through the draft, and then as this team starts to grow, that's when you start to bring in the pieces via free agency. But this next year, I don't want the New York Giants to go out there and spend like lunatics. I don't think it's the right decision. Floyd, man, thank you very much. He says everyone in this quarterback class would have been a quarterback 6 in last year's class. I understand DJ may not be the guy, but let's not overrate these quarterbacks. DJ for a stopgap. I'm with you. And I know, Floyd, I said it like 3 months ago. There's going to be fans, no matter what, that are going to convince themselves that there's going to be a quarterback in this draft that is going to be the next great thing. Because if we're being honest with ourselves, Floyd, quarterback is completely unpredictable. So the fans that want to take Malik Willis or want to take Kenny Pickett are going to say to themselves, well, people said the same thing about so-and-so and he worked out. And they're right. But if you look at it realistically, Floyd, the way I look at it is, regardless of how highly thought of the quarterback prospect is, if you look over the course of history, and I did a video on this, there's about a 20% hit rate on quarterbacks selected in the top 10. About a 20% hit rate. And when I say hit rate, I'm talking about a guy that gets a second contract, a contract extension. Because if you're taking a quarterback top 10, that's the hit rate. Finding out that that guy is a franchise quarterback, a guy that is a long-term solution. So the way I look at it is, historically speaking, and that's including guys like Trevor Lawrence, that's including guys like Andrew Luck, and that's including questionable quarterbacks. If it is a 20% hit rate, why in the world would I throw the dart at the board when my team is as bad as this team currently is in a quarterback draft class that most people feel is not as strong as others? That's my mindset on it. But Floyd, there's going to be fans that are going to convince themselves that Malik Willis is the next great thing. They're going to convince themselves that name the quarterback is the next great thing, and they may be right. But it's not a very high percentage, and I'd rather fix the other holes on this roster before I go and take that swing. Colby, man, thank you very much, man. Nowhere, Eric Bieniemy. What the hell does he do? He has Mahomes and Reed calling plays. All he does is stand there. Whenever Mahomes has a question, he asks Reed. I don't think we're going to hire Bieniemy. I don't know who brought up Bieniemy. I don't think we're going to hire Bieniemy. Bieniemy will probably get an interview. He got an interview last time around. And like you said, he's been with the Chiefs. He's got some success. He's picked the brain of Andy Reid, arguably the best offensive mind in all of football since I've been watching the sport. But, yeah, he doesn't call the plays. And it's the same thing with McDaniel with the 49ers. Everybody's going crazy about McDaniel. They're saying he's the next hot thing. Shanahan calls the plays. McDaniel doesn't call the plays. So that's a huge question mark if you bring in either one of those guys, in my opinion. But, again, if they bring him in, let's hope they work out. But I don't think they'll hire Bieniemy. Jonathan, man, thank you very much, man. Thoughts on Bill O'Brien as offensive coordinator if we get Flores? It could work. Definitely not as a head coach or a GM. I'll tell you that right now. Where is O'Brien? Hold on. Obviously, he got fired from Houston. He's in college now again, right? Yeah, he's with Alabama as the offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach. Obviously, he was known as a quarterback guy with New England. It's possible. He's got ties to Flores. I said, well, not really. He was with New England. I don't think Flores was there. So, I mean, it's possible. Would it be my dream hire? No. But it's possible. Chris P says, Joe Shane picks Joe Judge as head coach. Just kidding. Just hoping we get an offensive-minded head coach or strong OC going forward. Let's go Big Blue. Yeah, I'm just as sick and tired as you are, Chris, in terms of having a stagnant offense. And why this team ranked 31st each of the last 2 years in offense and 32 overall over that 2-year sample size. And yes, new scheme, the offensive line sucked. We had injuries. But no one can convince me that if we had a good offensive coordinator and a good head coach in terms of being offensive-minded, that this offense shouldn't have at least been 25, 24. For you to finish 31 and 32 overall over the last 2 years combined and be as poor as we've been in the red zone speaks volumes about the OC, about the guy that's calling the plays. Of course, the quarterback has to take some responsibility as well, but I'm with you, man. Bring in a good offensive coordinator, bring in a good offensive mind, and get this team up to date with the modern NFL. I'm with you. I think that's got to be the approach. Anthony says, think Carl Banks make a good linebacker coach. I mean, how do I know? I mean, Carl Banks, I'm not going to knock Carl Banks. Carl Banks would probably destroy me. I don't know how qualified he is to be a coach, but I mean, it happens. Look at D'Amico Ryans. D'Amico Ryans was a linebacker with, where did he play again? I think with Houston, right? And now he's the defensive coordinator with the 49ers. He's and he's being talked about as a potential head coach candidate. So I don't know, maybe. But I doubt it. I don't think We have to step away from guys like Carl Banks and guys that are former Giants. This is a completely new team. We brought in an outsider. Joe Schoen has no ties to anybody. Let him bring in the guys that he sees fit. Mark says Kevin Green is a great pick too. Can play right tackle or guard. Is it Kev? No, it's you're talking about. Hold on. I think you're talking about. I don't think it's Kevin Green. It's maybe it is. Hold on. Wasn't there? I think there's a Green, but I don't think his first name's Kevin. Let me just look. I know the guard you're talking about. Wow, they have Karlaftis moving up, man, in these more recent mocks. David Ajabo, Sam Howell, Stingley, Jermaine Johnson. I'll get back to you on that. But I think I know the guy you're talking. I don't think his first name's Kevin, but I got to keep up with the chat. Maybe I'm wrong on that. Maybe you're right. I'm going to do a lot more research on the draft prospects, though. Wow, Aquanu really fell in this mock. Holy crap, man. Holy crap. All right, I'll get back to the chat, though. I don't want to be looking for that the whole stream. But definitely, I'm definitely going to have my eyes on offensive linemen for sure. Oh, Frank, man, thank you so much, man, for the $20 donation, man. I really appreciate it, man. And thank you for being a member. Let's see what we got. David Cohen says, if Graham is gone and Frazier doesn't get a head coaching job, could be our DC under Dable. If Graham is gone and Frazier doesn't get it. Probably not. I mean, maybe, but probably not. I mean, if you're, again, much like I said with Dable, what is the point of Frazier making a lateral move unless he just really loves Dable? He's like, if you look at it like David, we have to think of it as like these guys are trying to progress in their careers. They're trying to eventually become head coaches. At the end of the day, that's the goal for all these guys or most of these guys. Why would Frazier leave a defense that is a top 4 or 5 defense in football for the Giants job for a lateral move? How does that help him become a head coach? I don't see it. I don't think it'll happen. Again, the only way Frazier or Dable leaves, I think, is to be a head coach. Kevin, man, thank you very much, man. Everyone in chat saying it's bigblueview.com for okay, bigblueview.com. Okay, sorry. Let me take a quick look. Bigblueview.com. Oh, maybe I misread it. Maybe I misread it. 11 names to watch if Giants. Well, that's an old article. Here we go. Giants hired Joe Schoen as general manager. I'm gonna look for the statement and then I'll show it. Here, I'll show it right now. Let me show the statement real quick. Okay. We are pleased and proud to name Joe as our general manager, said Giants president John Mara. In a statement released by the team, throughout our search, Joe impressed us with the ability to communicate a progressive and comprehensive vision for our team. His philosophy and collaborative approach to building a roster and coaching staff align with what we're looking for in a general manager. Joe is the kind of exceptional leader we sought to oversee our football operations, said Chairman Steve Tisch. We will do whatever it takes to support Joe's vision and strategic plan for success. We're excited to begin this next chapter with Joe as our general manager. This is what Shane had to say. Yeah, so this is what he was talking about. It is an honor to accept the position of GM for the New York Giants, said Shane. I want to thank John Mara and Steve Tisch and their families for the tremendous opportunity. And obviously, I am grateful to Brandon and the Bills for the experience I have had in Buffalo. Now the work begins. My immediate focus is to hire a head coach with who I will work in lockstep with to create a collaborative environment for our football operations. We will cast a wide net. So he's telling you right there, it's going to be a big coaching search. He's not going to just hire Dable. He's going to bring in a ton of guys that he feels could be qualified for the job. First-time head coaches, but it will be we will cast a wide net. It could be former head coaches so it could be either one, first-time head coaches, which is obvious. More importantly, it has to be a person who possesses the ability to lead an organization and the ability to motivate and develop players on the personnel side. We will begin to evaluate our roster and prepare for the draft and free agency. Our goal is to build a roster that will be competitive, have depth, and most importantly, win football games. So pretty, I guess, clear, what you'd expect from an opening statement from a guy that was hired as the GM and really doesn't tell me much about him. I'm really excited to see his opening press conference, and hopefully he starts to at least hint towards how he wants to build this football team. We know with Gettleman he did, even though he didn't fulfill his promises, but at least he told you how he wanted to build the team. So I'm looking forward to that, and hopefully we get some answers in terms of how he feels this team needs to be built. Larry says, DM'd your Twitter to the link. Oh, you didn't have to do that, Larry, man. I think that's the statement you were talking about, though. Sorry I didn't find it the first time. Lou says, 3 things to fix the O-line now. 1, Trader signed for a proven right tackle to go with Thomas. 2, draft 2 interior offensive linemen for your interior line. And what is left? Battles for the last spot. 3, hire a good O-line coach. Of course we need a good O-line coach. Rob Sale, I don't think, had much of an opportunity to prove whether or not he was a good O-line coach because he didn't have much to work with. I mean, Andrew Thomas did progress under his tutelage. But yeah, for sure, we definitely need a good O-line coach. As far as the right tackle goes, I'd probably prefer to draft him. I'd probably prefer to draft the right tackle. I think I want to draft 2 offensive linemen relatively early. First round, second round. If you could trade for one, great. A guy that could step in and do a great job, great. If you could do that. I don't think we're going to have much money to spend in free agency. Regardless of how they do it, they need to attack the offensive line. You look at it right now, we have 1 starter, in my opinion. Sports Burner says, Joe Brady for OC. The only question I have with Joe Brady is why did Carolina get rid of him so quick? And I don't know. I don't know. Maybe Matt Rule. I'm not a Panthers fan. Maybe Matt Rule didn't like working with the guy. I have no idea. But that's my question with Brady. I know that he was a hot candidate that people were talking about when he first came into the NFL. Did a really good job with LSU. But yeah, he's going to be a popular name that people bring up. Mark says, don't go crazy about cap. Free agency always equals bad contracts down the road. Worry about draft and re-signing structure your own. Caps can always be manipulated. Mark, the best teams, and you can build a team several different ways. I can only tell you how I want them to build a team. Everybody's got their own philosophy. Everybody's got their own way that they think they should build a team. The best teams do not build through free agency. The Rams do. The Rams trade all their draft picks away for proven players. So it is proven it can be done. Steelers never sign big free agents. The Patriots never sign big free agents. They build through the draft. Is there an instance here and there? Sure. But the majority of your team should be built through the draft. And if you're starting a foundation, that's where you have to start. You have to start through the draft. At least that's my opinion on the matter. But Mark, man, thank you very much, buddy. I appreciate it. And we're almost caught up with the chat. Thank you to everybody for being here, by the way. I just try to keep up with you guys as quick as I can. Thank you to everybody for being here. Thank you guys for all the support. Sorry I haven't streamed in a bit. Like I said, I was kind of in limbo. Haven't had much to talk about. Was waiting for the GM thing to drop, and then we're going to start to get a vision of what this team's going to do going forward. I'll definitely have a lot of videos up on the head coaching candidates and my opinions on all of them once I get the full list. And we'll take it from there, and then we'll find out who the OC, the DC, and everything else. Mark says, Bieniemy is a good offensive coordinator, but he's had struggles in recent past as a coach and player with alcohol and DUIs. He scares me in that regard. Yeah, he was arrested in, I want to say 2001. I remember doing a little bit more research on him recently. I think Bieniemy was arrested in like 2001, which you never hear. And listen, I'm all for Bieniemy getting a job. I hope he does. He seems like he's a good candidate. I hope he gets a job. But whenever you go on like ESPN or SNY, the mainstream media, all they bring up is the race card with Bieniemy. And listen, I think there is a problem in the NFL in terms of African-American head coaches and minorities not representing teams. I think there's only 3 right now, if I'm not mistaken, that are minority head coaches. But that is probably not the main reason why Bieniemy has not gotten a job, if you're being honest with yourself. The guy, I think, was arrested twice for DUIs, and he beat somebody up. I could be wrong on that, but I hope he gets a job. And if the New York Giants hire him, great. But there is definitely a checkered past. CHF, man, thank you very much, man. Stand up, New York Giants fans. Wow, what a day to be alive. Best day as a Giant since Super Bowl 2012. Man, never thought I could be an optimistic fan after that double QB sneak. Let's go get a head coach now. I knew at that point they were probably more than likely going to blow it up. And I'm just happy that we have a new direction. We got a new guy making the decisions. And this is a new regime for New York Giants football. This is something they've never done since I've been watching the team. It's always been insiders in terms of GM, guys that have worked with Mara in the past, guys he was familiar with. This is somebody completely from with outside the organization, and it's something the New York Giants needed. Dylan says, stand up. Giants are going to be an absolute force in the back half of this decade. From your lips to God's ears, man. Let's start building this team the right way, and let's get back to New York Giants football. Gerald says, are you worried that the New York media will dump on Joe and the new coaches if we aren't firing out the gates the first 2 years? All good rebuilds take time. Yes. 100%. 100. But we're in New York, man. We're in New York. We're in the toughest media market in the world, the toughest fan base in the world. If the New York Giants think next year, you're going to have fans going crazy. You're going to have people, the media going crazy. You're going to have people trying to dig up stories to make this team look bad. I'll tell you that right now. I'm going to give you guys this promise. Same thing I did with Gettleman and the same thing I did with Shermer. I didn't want Shermer fired after 2 years. Go back and look. I'm giving these guys 3 years. You have my promise. I'm giving these guys 3 years. And there is no way it's going to look as murky year one with this regime as it did with Gettleman. So if I was willing to give Gettleman 3 years and be like, okay, let's see what this guy could build, you bet your ass I'm going to be willing to give this GM and head coach 3 years. And I think that is what we need to do as a fan base. I'm not going to tell anybody how to root for their team, and everybody's got their own opinions, but I think, like you said, I think you have to give them some time to get out of this mess. But yeah, do I think that the media and the fan base is going to try to force change if the team's not doing well the first couple of years? Yeah, absolutely. Schoen, man, thank you very much, man. As a Bills fan, I'm pumped for y'all. Home run hire. Hopefully, Shane restores this storied franchise because goddamn, I can't stand the Cowboys. Schoen, man, thank you so much, man. I appreciate it. And I'm rooting for your Bills the rest of the way. I got no reason to hate you guys. I've always liked Josh Allen. And you're the New York team that's left. So I'm rooting for you guys the rest of the way. I think that's going to be a great game, by the way. Bills Chiefs is going to be a phenomenal game. Last time around, they kind of beat you up pretty bad, but you guys look like a different team right now. You're starting to click. The running game is definitely working for you guys right now. And if you got that running game working with Josh Allen at quarterback, that is a scary sight to see. So I'm looking forward to that game. I think it's going to be really close. I think the Bills got a legitimate chance to beat Kansas City. I think the winner of that game is going to win the AFC. So best of luck, man, and thank you for Joe Sheen. No Mets, no Jets, no Nets, says, and factor in lateral moves with cost of living. We're not getting guys with lateral moves. It's just not going to happen. The only reason we got Patrick Graham for a lateral move is, one, he got a promotion. He became the head coach. But two, he clearly didn't have a good working relationship with Flores. Flores took away the play calling duties from Patrick Graham. So that's the only reason why we got Graham in the first place. He didn't want to work with Flores anymore. At least that's my opinion on the matter, which is probably why we got Graham to begin with. So none of these guys, Leslie Frazier ain't coming here for a lateral move. Sean, man, he says, as far as future DCs, if Graham is gone, how do you feel about Fangio? Oh, Fangio's a grand slam dunk. Yes. Or Zimmer, actually excited for some new blood in the building finally. Yeah, Fangio, yes, absolutely. Get me Vic Fangio, yes, 1,000%. That would be my ideal hire for a defensive coordinator. Mark says, if Jerry Jones could get Sean Payton, who he likes, then he'll move off of McCarthy, trying to see what compensation New Orleans wants. If not, he stays with his puppet, Mike McCarthy. I think Sean Payton stays where he is. Now, the Cowboys is definitely, I guess, an attractive destination, but I'd be surprised. I mean, we say a lot of bad things about Jones. One thing that you could say about Jerry Jones, he is patient. Look how patient he was with Jason Garrett. And the fact that the Cowboys won 12 games this year in a year in which most people thought they'd win like 9, even though I'm not a big McCarthy fan, I'd be surprised if they move off of Mike McCarthy. The only logical reason I could see the Cowboys moving off of McCarthy would be if they felt like they were losing their offensive coordinator, Kellen Moore, to a head coaching job. And they're like, okay, we want to make sure that Kellen Moore's the head coach long-term. Let's fire McCarthy now and promote Kellen Moore. But outside of something like that, I think they're going to stick with McCarthy. Jeff, man, thank you very much, man. What's up, Chris? Who would you like as the New York Giants head coach? Realistically speaking, probably Dable. Out of the guys that I think they're going to bring in, probably Dable because of his ties to Shane and being that he's offensively minded. Probably Dable, but I'm not going to be upset if they hire Flores. I'm going to be upset if they hire a lot of guys, but probably Dable, realistically speaking. I'm really curious on who stays and goes on the roster. Yeah, I mean, most of the guys are going to be gone in 2 years. I think. I'm not saying all of them. Obviously, the guys that you just drafted won't be, but most of the other guys, by not going into next year, the following year, I think will be off this roster. Almost all of them. Galladay's gone. Not this year. The following year is probably gone. If not, definitely the year after that. Leonard Williams probably gone after this year. Anywhere that you could shed salary cap and start to bring in the guys that you want to build this football team, I think they're going to do it. So I think the majority of this team, eventually over the next 2 years, will be rebuilt. And they'll start bringing in their guys via the draft and keeping the young guys on the roster that they think are a part of the future, like Andrew Thomas, like McKinney, like, so on and so forth. Let's see. And I don't even know how to pronounce that. Phenopolis says, I was hoping they would hire Joe Schoen. I'm still waiting for them to trade Darius Slayton for a can of. I'm not the biggest Darius Slayton fan either, but to be fair, Phenopolis, I mean, what's the real incentive of trading Slayton? Other than you just don't want to see him play in a New York Giants uniform anymore because of his drop problems and things of that nature. But what's the real incentive in trading Slayton? Slayton makes next to nothing. He makes like $1 million. He's at least a serviceable number 3 or probably a number 4 wide receiver. I mean, if you get something for him, sure. But if you can't get anything decent for him, might as well keep him. Hope he has a good year. Maybe you get a comp pick the following year. So I don't think they're going to trade Slayton. Mark says, correction. Yeah, Kenyon Green. That was it. Yeah, for some reason I forgot the guy's name. Kenyon Green. That was it. And he is regarded as the as probably the best guard in this year's draft. At least because I guess Aquanu, most people don't know if he's going to play tackle or guard. But yeah, everything I've read, he's supposed to be one of the better interior offensive linemen in this year's draft. Probably would prefer, if we traded down if we were going to draft him. But yeah, for sure, a lot of people like him as the best guard in this year's draft. That's who it was. I don't know why I couldn't remember the guy's first name. McAdoo to the Panthers. Is that official? I think I read that he was getting an interview. Is that official? Oh, it is official. McAdoo hired as the Panthers offensive coordinator. Interesting. So now the Panthers, interesting. I mean, Matt, you know what? As much as I rag on McAdoo and hated him as a head coach, he was a good offensive coordinator for the Giants. I mean, Eli Manning had 2 of his best statistical years in a New York Giants uniform with McAdoo calling the plays. So he could do a good job over there. I mean, they got some weapons. Who knows who the quarterback's going to be? But he could do a good job over there. I wouldn't recommend hiring him as a head coach, but he could do a good job over there. Not a good head coach. Yeah, I thought he was a decent OC. I think he was a good OC. I'm not saying he was great, but he was a good OC. The McAdoo hiring was basically to mask our horrible offensive line because McAdoo's philosophy was always get the ball out as quickly as you possibly can. It was the 2-second offense when we brought him in from Green Bay. I don't want him, though. Let's see. Macaroons had Eli throwing less interceptions and higher completion percentage. McAdoo, you mean? Yeah. I don't want him, Tommy. I want nothing to do with McAdoo. I want nothing to do with McAdoo. But for what he had, I mean, I'm going to read Eli Manning's stats. Let's be fair. I mean, just as an offensive play caller, and I know Beckham had something to do with it, but his 2 years as the OC for the Giants before he became the head coach was what? 14 and 15. Eli Manning had 30 touchdowns and 14 picks, 35 touchdowns and 14 picks in the 2 years he called plays. He had 65 touchdowns and 28 picks in those 2 years. The year before he got there, he had 18 touchdowns and 27 picks. So it's not like he was horrible. The Giants actually had a very good offense his first year there in 2014. And by no means am I defending McAdoo. I hated McAdoo. I thought he was a horrible head coach, but he did a pretty good job as an OC. T, thank you very much. Shane prefers wins to process. We're in trouble. Well, that doesn't mean, any GM that comes in here, I think, he didn't say that I expect to win a Super Bowl year 1, but any GM that comes in here, you want to hear that the guy wants to build a team that's going to win. I don't think that means anything at all. At all. I'm not going to read too much into that. He's just saying that he wants to build a team that's going to start winning football games. What's going on there? Evan Manning's popping in. Yeah, terrible head coach, good OC. That's exactly what he was. Mark, man, thank you very much, man. Does McAdoo bring his oversized suit down to Carolina? Or is it just the shades and the slip back? Good question, Mark. That's where McAdoo got into trouble. I say it all the time, man. It's when he switched the haircut. When he had the mushroom haircut, we won 11 games. And then he went to the slick back look. McAdoo seemed like a poser year or two. Like he was just trying to look like a New Yorker. Didn't work, man. Chris says, who can you see trading up to the Giants' fifth spot? Let me take a quick look at the draft order. I was actually looking at this the other day, and I was trying to figure out who could trade up. You say not for a quarterback, but more than likely, if a team's trading up that early, it's going to be for a quarterback. So I think the first thing I look at is teams that are potential quarterback needy teams. Denver's a possibility, I suppose, if they like a quarterback. And we don't know what's going to happen in the offseason either. We don't know if these teams are going to acquire a veteran like a lot of people think Denver could potentially do. But Denver maybe 9-5. Then the Giants would be picking 7 and 9. That's a possibility. Atlanta at 8 is a possibility, jumping from 8-5. Carolina, of course, potentially poses a threat of drafting a quarterback. So maybe a team wants to jump them to that 5th spot. So I think 8 and 9 are possibilities. If you go a little bit further back, Minnesota, maybe a possibility. Cousins isn't going to be there long term at 12. That's probably it. Looking at it, I don't think we're going to go much further back. We're not trading with the Eagles, who are 15 and 16. Baltimore's not trading up for a quarterback. Cleveland, maybe. But I think if there was going to be a trade, I think it would be from 5 to 8 or 9 or from 7 to 12. If you ask me right now, what's the most realistic? Maybe the Saints, but that's a far drop from 7 to 18. You'd have to get a ton to drop that far back. But realistically speaking, I would probably say Atlanta, Denver, or Minnesota would probably be the 3 most likely. We're not trading with Washington. I don't see that happening. I don't think the Giants are going to make a trade with Washington. Oh, you were joking. All right, T. Sometimes it's hard to figure out when people are joking. Let's relax on the trade. And thank you, T. Let's relax on the trade up. No one knows if Schoen wants to run it back with Jones. I don't want to trade up. Trading up to me would be ridiculous. No chance am I trading up. If anything, I'm trading down. I'm not trading up. Let's see. Would you consider trading up in the back? Oh, well, that's different. Would you consider I thought you meant in the early first. Would you consider trading up in the back end of the first round and draft Willis with his 5th year option? I mean, Arthur, that's actually a good point. I didn't even think about that. It's actually a good point. If they were going to draft a quarterback in the 2nd round, to do what the Ravens did may make sense. You trade up to the back end of the first. That way you get the 5th year option. Because if you draft the guy in the 2nd round, you don't get the 5th year option. Maybe if you could trade up to like 30 or 31, that way you're still not paying the guy a whole lot of money and you could move on after a year or two. That may make more sense than waiting till the 2nd round to draft him. Maybe, being that we're picking early 2nd round anyway. But I don't think anybody's going to convince me in drafting a quarterback this year. I know people want to. I know people are going to try their hardest. I don't think anybody's going to convince me. Mark says we have the possibility to trade back or up all through this draft. Yeah, with all the draft picks we have. I just don't want to trade up in the early first. I don't want to trade up in the top 5, 6, 7 picks. We have 2 top 7 picks to begin with. If anything, early on, I want them to trade down. But yeah, we got 2 third-round picks. We got a ton of picks. We do have the ability to move up, like that person just said, in the back end of the first. Maybe another pick in the 2nd round. There's a lot of options that the New York Giants are going to have. No trade up in the first. Yeah, no trade up in the first. Maybe the back end of the first, but not early first. Alex Wilson, what's going on? I don't think this is the real Alex Wilson. He says, trade back to 9. Maybe it is. Trade back to 9, grab extra second, and solidify this offensive line with the first 4 picks. Ekwonu and Linderbaum at 5 and 9. Zion Johnson and Max Mitchell in the 2nd. Start Ekwonu, Johnson at guard. Teal at center, and Mitchell at right tackle. I mean, I'd be in heaven if they were able to do something like that. Listen, if they could fill out this offensive line in this year's draft, sign me up. That's what I want. That's what I've always wanted. So that's what I want. And I think a trade down is a dream scenario. I'm leaning that it won't happen because I like what the other person just said when I answered it. I don't think there's going to be a team that's going to be drooling over potentially trading up for a quarterback. They're probably going to be like, we could just sit back and one of these guys are going to come to us. But if a team thinks that Matt Corral is so much better than everybody else, maybe they do trade up to get their quarterback or Kenny Pickett or whoever. So there may be the ability to trade down, but it's definitely not something that's like for sure going to happen. I think in 2018, it was a lock, but Gettleman didn't do it. But I think it was a lock that you knew that there were going to be offers. This year, I don't know if that's going to be the case. Knicks need to get rid of Randall. Amazing Guy says, yeah, I'm not a big Randall. Bad Dog live stream. Someone said, I missed it. Let's see. I know Tana said no one can convince him to draft a quarterback this year, but it is guaranteed the Mets won 4 World Series in a row. Would you still not take a quarterback at that point? Oh, dude, Drake, if you told me the Mets were going to win a World Series next year or the Knicks were going to win an NBA Finals this year, take the quarterback. But I don't think anybody's going to convince me that this year it's the best decision for the New York Giants to take a quarterback in the top 7 with their 5th or 7th pick. That doesn't mean I'm going to flip out if it happens. I'm going to give the guy an opportunity to prove me wrong, but I don't think anybody's going to convince me of that. Dylan says, when need to draft an edge rusher this year? Yeah, we need an edge rusher. We need an edge rusher. We need a linebacker. We need offensive line help. We need a lot. Yeah. We'll go over all the edge prospects. I promise you that. And it's clearly a possibility with one of those 2 first-round picks. I don't know what they're going to do. I'm still leaning they're going to go offensive line and best available defensive player with those 2 picks, regardless of the position. Regardless of the position. If you ask me right now, I think it'll be whoever's the best defensive player on their board, I think is going with one of those 2 picks. And I think offensive line with the other. I don't think they're going to draft just for position. I think they're going to take the best available defensive player on their board. Mark says, combine and team workouts always could change who moves up for quarterbacks, but I doubt it will be for our picks. We don't know. We don't know. We honestly don't know. We don't know. We just don't know. I'm leaning that we're not. I'm leaning that we're not going to draft a quarterback, but that could change. Like you said, if a guy has a great workout, great combine, and Joe Schoen falls in love with one of these prospects, we could. We could do anything. These guys have no ties to any of these players. And ibuprofen, and I agree. Somebody said Hamilton. Somebody said Hamilton will be a Giant. I'm going to tell you right now, if I was doing a mock today, Hamilton would be a New York Giant. I think it'll be a lineman and Hamilton, if you ask me today. Not what I want, but that would be my mock today. Ibuprofen says, does Pat Graham stay with the G-Men or no? I think he's gone. I think we bring in a completely outsider, somebody new for the defensive coordinator position. I don't think we're retaining Patrick Graham. What are your Chris? I'm gonna do some more. I'm gonna do some Met streams this year, Quan, for sure. CJ says no. I guess that's the Patrick Graham. Yeah, Graham's gone. Who do we need to draft to get a Daniel Jones reaction? I'm not going to do a Daniel Jones reaction. No matter what we do, I'm not going to do a Daniel Jones reaction. I guarantee it. Not going to do it. I'm going to give Joe Schoen an opportunity to build this team. So I may hate the pick, but I'm going to breathe. And I will say that I disagree with the pick. I'm definitely going to say that if I disagree with it, but I am not going to flip out. I'm going to let this GM build the team the way that he feels he needs to build it before I start judging him in terms of the job. The guys haven't even played on the football field yet. So you're not getting a Daniel Jones reaction. You're not. I'm not flipping out with the pick, regardless of what happens. I'm going to rant. I will definitely say it's a bad pick if I feel that it is, or be super excited if I think it's great, but you're not going to get a Daniel Jones reaction. Let's see what we got. Chris says, Buffalo sends scouts to watch Willis. See, I read that, Chris, but here's the thing. That's not what happened. I mean, maybe it's what happened, but that's not what was said. Buffalo Bills scouts went to the Ole Miss Liberty game. That's all that was said. Buffalo Bills scouts went there. That's all that was said. That doesn't mean that they were there to scout Malik Willis. That doesn't mean that they were there to scout Matt Corral. They could have been there to scout defensive linemen. They could have been there to scout offensive linemen. Why would the Buffalo Bills be interested in Malik Willis? Why? They have Josh Allen. So just because they were at that game, I don't think that translates to that Joe Schoen may want to take Malik Willis. I think that's just fans looking to grasp onto anything that means that the Giants may take Malik Willis. I read nothing into that whatsoever. Just because he went to a game where Malik Willis happens to be playing and doesn't even mean they're there to scout Malik Willis. As a matter of fact, I would argue that they weren't there to scout Malik Willis. Unless maybe they were there to scout him for a potential, when they go up against him in the NFL, because they sure as hell were never going to draft him. So I don't read too much into that. Mark says, I meant to trade up for our picks. I don't want any of these quarterbacks for our first. Yeah, I'm with you, Mark. I don't want to trade up at all. I'm with you. Unless it's in the back end of the first, then maybe. Leslie Frazier is a sleeper for head coach. Possible. Wouldn't be my ideal choice. Like I said, I keep saying I want an offensive-minded head coach. Leslie Frazier is a DC, but it's possible. He's got ties to Schoen. A lot of people have brought up Frazier. It's possible. He's been a head coach before, so maybe. Now, he may get it. He probably will get an interview. I don't think he'll get the job, though. Yeah, they need a huge road grader at offensive tackle. They need a huge offensive tackle from Alabama at 5, then a smart linebacker edge at 7. Sign me up. Get me Evan Neal and get me a defensive playmaker, then take another lineman in the second round, and you're going to see me smiles ear to ear on draft night. And, there's DP. Somebody could get him out of here. Mark says, just no more DBs in our high picks, please. I mean, not my preference, but I won't be upset if they do it. If you can get a lockdown corner that you feel is going to be a guy that could be a top-tier corner in the league for years to come, I'm not going to cry about it. Tre'Davious White, you look at him with the Buffalo Bills, he's been phenomenal. So we have to realize that Bradbury's not going to be in the long-term plans of this team. If they identify a corner as being an elite prospect and he's there, if they take him, all right, you better be a lockdown corner. Ibuprofen says, I honestly think there is a good quarterback in Daniel Jones, I think you meant to say. And with a good system, I really think he can be better than Ryan Tannehill. And if Dable comes in, I have faith. I hope you're right, man. I am not going to come out and set super high expectations for Daniel Jones. I am willing to say I'm willing to give him another year for the simple reason I don't want to force a quarterback pick. And listen, I'm going to give him, if he's the starting quarterback next year, I'm going to give him just as much of an opportunity as I did going into this year with a new scheme, hopefully healthy playmakers. But nobody's going to convince me, I don't think, regardless of what he does at the end of this year, unless he completely blows the doors off, that I think he's going to be worthy of a second contract. For as much to do with his injury history as anything else. Even if he has a great year, the guy gets hurt all the time. I hope, though, man. I hope more than anybody. I want him to be better than Eli Manning. I want him to be the greatest quarterback in franchise history. But I got to be realistic. I don't think he's going to be right now. So we'll see. But if he's still the quarterback, I'll hope that Dable could come in here and make him look great. Acapulco says, how long till we get we ain't getting Josh Allen. We ain't getting Josh Allen. I wish. We ain't getting Josh Allen. Ian says, if we hire Flores for head coach, do we bring in Watson for quarterback? Would you like that move? It depends on the price. But yeah, I mean, again, I know that people are definitely wary of the legal issues and the things he's done off the field. And I am not trying to excuse any of that. But if it's ruled that he's innocent and it's not going to be a problem on the field, listen, not all these guys are preachers, right? At the end of the day, Lawrence Taylor, not that he did anything like that, but well, Lawrence Taylor wasn't a saint, let's put it that way, but he helped us win football games. And Deshaun Watson would help us win football games. So, yeah, I think if the right deal was there, how could you not at least entertain it for a 25-year-old quarterback? But it depends on the deal for me. But, yeah. Rodney says, Chris, what do you think Schoen does with the draft picks from last year, especially Tony? Tony's a guy that I really thought about, especially if Peters came in from the 49ers, because the way that they utilize Deebo Samuel, because I think that's the way. That's how I envisioned Kadarius Toney when we drafted him. The same way the 49ers use Deebo Samuel, that's how I envisioned Toney. Now, I'm not saying he's going to get like 10 carries a game like Deebo seems to get, but the way that they use him, that's how I would envision him in a modern-day offense. And it's why I kind of even though I like Toney a lot, anybody that is in my Discord would tell you that before the draft started. I even went as far to say if he's put in the right spot, he could end up being maybe the best wide receiver in the draft. Even though, obviously, now, hindsight, Jamar Chase is incredible. But I think Toney in the right spot could be a really good wide receiver, but he has to be utilized properly, much like Deebo Samuel is. I think that's the type of wide receiver that he is. And obviously, there's concerns about, him staying healthy, too. Rodney, Matt, thank you very much. Chris, what do you think Schoen does with the draft picks from last year, especially? Oh, I just read that, actually. Stand up! But to answer your question, I think he keeps all of them. Why wouldn't you? They make nothing. So I think he keeps all of them, at least in the immediate future. Mark, man, he says DBs and wide receivers for us always equals IR for us in the high picks. Yeah, we haven't had much luck with the DBs for sure, or the wide receivers. I mean, the last good wide receiver we drafted early was Beckham. And we had Nix. Nix was a good pick. I mean, he got hurt, but Nix was a good pick. DBs, for the most part, haven't worked out. Prince Amukamara, I guess, is the best one in recent history, but even he probably wasn't worthy of that pick. So, yeah, we have not been known for DBs. That's always kind of been a weakness of this defense since I've been watching the team, for the most part. A year here or there, sure, but overall, we've never been known for our DBs. Pete, man, what's going on, man? Greater than Eli, you shut your mouth when you... Well, I mean, I hope. You always want the next guy to be better than the last, but no way. He ain't never going to be, but I hope. Frank says, if we can't get a trade down, I would take Hamilton and an offensive lineman, then take Zion Johnson in the second round. Can't take a flyer on O-line, and have that much money on the O-line without a sure thing. I think DJ will thrive. I sure hope so, man. And I'm going to be excited to see DJ if he's back with the Giants next year with definitely a better supporting cast. I mean, especially if you bring in a guy like Dable, you have to think just the scheme alone is a huge improvement over what he had with Garrett. And if we address offensive line in the draft, the line should be better, and we'll see. We'll see how he plays if he's back. Allison says, hey, Chris, would you trade up to picks? No, I would not. No, I would not. I wouldn't take quarterback at 5 or 7 personally. And that's the other thing I say. If people who talk about that they want to take Willis in the second round, or they want to take Corral, whoever, they want to wait till the second round to take a quarterback. My mindset is, if you don't feel strong enough to take him with that 5th overall pick, or even potentially trade up to get him, you probably shouldn't take that quarterback. That's my mindset. And I definitely don't feel strong enough to trade up to get a quarterback in this year's draft. So I don't want to take a quarterback. I just don't. I don't want to take a quarterback. Cher says, we are 3 years away from being competitive. Take the best available player on the board. It's not like we have a franchise quarterback to protect. Yeah, I think regardless, Cher, I think you need to take one lineman. But I'm with you. I think as the draft approaches, I think my mindset is going to be take the best available player and a lineman. And I think a lineman is probably going to be one of those best available picks anyway. Picking at 5 and 7, it's a strong offensive line draft class anyway. But I'm with you. I think in the end, I think they're going to. I would hope at least they take one lineman and the best available defensive player, and then take another lineman in the second round. That's what I think they should do. I don't know if they will. Chain man, thank you very much, man. Stand up. Great news to start the weekend, man. New York Giants all over again. We got a new regime. Let's go. Gerard says, with DJ's injury history, rookie quarterback will play. Sure, if we draft one. Listen, if we draft one in the first round, Daniel Jones is gone. Daniel Jones is going to be traded if we draft one in the first round. If we draft one in the second or third, yeah, if DJ goes down, they'll get an opportunity to play. Trudeau says, salute day, Chris. Drop by to pay our proper respects. And for all Giants fans around the world, we'll slam all the boys losers to the ground. What's going on, Trudeau, man? Thanks for popping in. Glad to see the Cowboys lost last week. Allison says, hey, Chris, you read that wrong. Oh, I didn't mean to read it wrong. I meant what other team? Oh, I'm sorry I read that wrong, Allison. I didn't mean, I thought you meant with the Giants. I'm sorry. I like Daniel Jones. I think he can excel in the right system. Let me take a quick look in terms of team. Well, I think I talked about it already. But in terms of teams that could jump us to take a quarterback, I suppose Carolina is a possibility at 6. Obviously, they traded for Darnold last year, but he doesn't look like he's a long-term answer. If they really like Kenny Pickett, Atlanta, Denver. I think those 3 teams. I think 6, 8, and 9 are the 3 teams that could jump us into the top 4. I would say those 3 teams are the possibilities. I don't think you go much deeper than that. I don't think like the Jets are used to would trade all the way back to, say, 12 with Minnesota. So I think it would be 6, 8, or 9. I think those are the most realistic teams that could potentially jump us. But sorry I misinterpreted, Allison. Michael says, we need to take O-line the first 2 picks because the talent drops tremendously after the top 5. Edge isn't the case and could be addressed in the second. I want to take linemen. But I also completely understand people that want to take a first round edge because I am also sick and tired of trying to find value at the edge position. Where has that gotten us, right? Lorenzo Carter in the 3rd round, O'Shane Zimenez in the 3rd round, nothing, right? Hasn't produced anything. Azeez Ojulari had a good rookie year. We'll see. I don't want to get too ahead of myself with him. But we need a dominant presence off the edge. So I definitely understand people that want to take an edge in the first round if there's an edge worth taking. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see. We'll see how we feel about these prospects as the draft fast approaches. But you look at the 49ers. Look at what Bosa does for that defense. That defense is completely different when he's out there. Coffin says Debo is a monster. Doubt Tony Durable enough. Yeah, I don't think he's going to be as good as Debo Samuel. Debo Samuel to me he's approaching a top 10 wide receiver in the NFL. He's really good. I just think he's that type of wide receiver. Like, he could be used in that capacity. But like you said, I definitely have injury concerns with Tony. I forgot who I was talking to. I was talking to somebody. I was the guy I went to the Knicks game with, who's a huge Gators fan. He said that Tony always had injury troubles, even with the Gators. There was only 1 year in which he stayed healthy start to finish. And unfortunately, I think he's going to be a guy that is going to be hindered by injuries in his entire career. I hope not, but unfortunately, I think that's probably going to be the case. Pete says, I think going best player available this year is about as bad as it could get unless best player available are two offensive linemen. We have the worst O-line in football, literally. We need to take two O-linemen at 5 and 7, and I don't think it's remotely close. Hey, man, I hope you're right, because that's what I want. I can't slam them if they take a really good defensive player in one lineman and they take a lineman in the second. I certainly can't slam them for that, but I hope you're right. I want two offensive linemen. In an ideal world, we trade back and take two, but regardless, if they come out of this draft, here's what I'll say, Pete. If the Giants take two offensive linemen at 5 and 7, if you're watching this stream right now and you don't want them to do that, I don't think you could be upset if they do it. Like, I don't think there's a strong argument against it. I also don't think you'd be upset if they go one lineman and one edge, but if they take two offensive linemen, because the way I look at it is, if you do that, you probably don't have to take a first-round offensive lineman for a pretty long time at that point, because you have a guy that you feel is going to be a really good interior presence for the long-term future of your team. Now you're set at the right tackle position. You got your left tackle situated, and you just fill in the rest of the holes. When you have that much talent, if those guys work out to what they should be, if you're drafting them that high, the rest of the offensive line will fall into place. So I don't think anybody should be super upset if we take two linemen with our first two picks. I don't think anybody should be super upset if they do that. Chime says, I think we need to draft a tight end, maybe second round. Possible. Possible. I think after you get out of the first round, anything's possible. And we definitely need a tight end. We're losing Evan Ingram. We're going to lose Kyle Rudolph. So that's definitely a need for sure. I think we need a tight end. I don't know if it'll be in the second round, maybe the third, the fourth, but I definitely think we're drafting a tight end in this year's draft. Rob says goal line first two picks. Yeah. And I agree. I agree with Sandman, by the way. We have 2 third-round picks. I think that's where I'd prefer to draft a tight end. We have 2 third-round picks. The first 3 picks, I don't think I'd prefer a tight end. I think the third round is where I'd want to do it. And that's where I probably expect them to do it, in the third round. Maybe the early fourth round pick. But one of those 3 picks, the 2 third-round picks or the fourth round pick. I think that if we're going to take a tight end, which I think we will, I think that's where it'll be. If you ask me right now, out of our 9 picks, what I think will happen, I think you'll take 3 linemen. I think you'll take a tight end. I think in no specific order. 3 linemen, a tight end, probably a linebacker, an edge. And then after that, who knows? You know, it's a crapshoot. Could be a corner, could be a safety. It's a complete crapshoot. You don't know. They're going to go BPA. But I think they'll come out of this draft with 3 linemen. And Pete says, Cowboys had the best O-line for years. They had what? 4 first-rounders. Don't overthink it. Yeah, Pete. And then what people will argue, and I'm not saying you're wrong, but then what people will argue will be like, well, look at other teams. They didn't have to address the offensive line in the first round. I see the argument on both sides, but I'm with you, man. You have a situation right now where you're going to have to draft a quarterback, more than likely, after this year, if Daniel Jones is not the guy. It is imperative that you get that offensive line situated as quickly as you possibly can. Because I don't want this new quarterback, if we draft one in 2023, to come onto this team and deal with the same thing that Eli Manning dealt with his last 8 years. Deal with what Daniel Jones had to deal with his first 3 years in the NFL. I want to have this offensive line at least trending towards the right direction. At least be competent. And if you have the ability to address that this year, and start to build that up for your future quarterback, I think that's the best course of action. I'm with you. That's been my mindset now for months in terms of what we should do in the draft. And Shah says, with way that Jalen Hurts played, I think Philly should trade. I think the Eagles should trade their 3 first-round picks and Jason Kelce to the New York Giants to get number 7. I agree with you, Shah. I think they should trade all 3 of their first, their future first, come up and get Pickett. I think he'd do great things for that organization. I think that'd be a great decision by the Philadelphia Eagles. But realistically, I mean, the Eagles could do anything. I mean, they love drafting quarterbacks, right? We saw them do it with Hurts when they had Carson Wentz. But if you ask me, I don't think the Eagles will take a quarterback. I think they'll give Hurts one more year, and they'll try to fill in their defense this offseason. Who knows? But they certainly could take a quarterback with one of those 3 picks. Zahibe says, "See, Breezy, what's up, bro? What's going on?" Zahibe, man, thanks for popping in. Darren says, Panthers have hired Ben McAdoo, who's their offensive coordinator. Yeah. Somebody just told me about that about 15 minutes ago. I mean, it's not a horrible. I mean, I don't like McAdoo. I think he's an asshole, without lack of a better word, in terms of his handling of the situation of the head coach with the New York Giants. But I think he was a pretty good offensive coordinator, so he may do a good job there for them. Jeff says, what do you think happens with Saquon Barkley? I think he plays one more year with the Giants, and then I think he's gone. The most I can see Barkley being here is one more year after this next, on like a franchise tag. But I don't think he gets a second contract with the Giants. I think he's gone. Jarvis Juice, I'm with you. I'm completely with you. As far as the backup, I think he's a perfect backup. And DP, this guy is the best, man. This guy's the best. DP is the best. He goes out and he creates all these names, and he comes in here and he thinks he's going to get me to react. I just saw you pop up. You're the best. You're the best. You loser. Who spends time creating 12 usernames to come in and try to get a guy to be upset? I just laugh at you. You're pathetic. I love you, man. Thank you so much for all the views and all the support you always show the channel. Keep coming back. Jarvis Juice says, hire Dable, then trade for Trubisky to give DJ quarterback competition and a good backup. Yeah, I've said I think Trubisky is a perfect backup actually for Daniel Jones. A lot of people laugh at Trubisky when people say bring him in as a backup. I think he's a perfect backup for Daniel Jones if you want to go that route. His skill set is similar to Jones, right? He's got some mobility. A lot of times when you bring in a backup, you want a guy that is kind of similar to your starter, kind of like what Huntley is with Lamar Jackson. I think Trubisky's a good backup if he'd be willing to take this job. He may be looking for a job where he feels like he could be a starter, but I think he's a perfect backup. And his ties to Dable make a lot of sense. Michael says, I only say line because we have to invest in blue chip players there. Give Saquon and Jones a real chance for successive evaluation. Develop edge if Jones is not the guy. That's Michael. I'm with you. And the other thing it does, and you brought up a really good point about Saquon Barkley, it potentially increases his trade value. Like as an organization, like some people may not believe this. They may be like, oh, there's no way you'll ever get anything for Saquon Barkley. Really? If Saquon Barkley next year looks like a top 5 running back in the league, which I don't know if he will, but if you have a really good offensive line or an improved offensive line and he's a year back from the ACL tear, the Patriots gave up a second-round pick for Mohamed Sanu. I say it all the time. You're telling me if Saquon Barkley looks great behind an improved offensive line, a team may not be willing to give up a decent draft pick? I think they would. So that's the other thing. If you improve the offensive line, it may make Saquon Barkley look better. Maybe you get a lot more for him than you think. I'm with you, man. Start in the trenches. Frank, man, thank you very much. Hope people are realistic with expectations and allow Shane to build a long-term successful team. I mean, I hope so too. And I'm going to be. I could just tell you me. I could tell you me. I'm going to be. And Peter says, McAdoo wanted Mahomes first, then he wanted Allen. My God. We should hire him immediately to lead our scouting department. Yeah, based off his track record, he'd probably be a very good scout, at least an evaluator of quarterbacks. Mark says Trubisky or Mariota for backup allow you to run a similar Yeah, I think Trubisky's a perfect backup. I really do. I don't know if Mariota would take the job. It depends. Those guys may be looking to be starters, or they may be looking to go to a place where they could at least start 4 or 5 games before a rookie takes over. But they may also look at the New York Giants situation and say, hey, I got an injury-prone quarterback with Daniel Jones. I got a guy with no attachments to Daniel Jones. If he struggles, I may get an opportunity to step in and play. So, yeah, I mean, especially, and that's the other thing. If you address the offensive line, it makes it a more attractive destination for some of these quarterbacks to come in and potentially be a backup for Jones as well, because maybe they feel like they can come in and thrive. If you bring in Dable, you bring in a modern day offense. So I think you'll be able to get a good backup quarterback to back up Daniel Jones. And I think Trubisky makes a whole lot of sense. No, I don't think anybody's saying they want Trubisky over Jones. I think they're talking about a guy that could back up Jones. A guy that could back. I don't want Trubisky over Jones. I would want Jones to be the projected starter, and I want Trubisky to be a guy that could back him up. I'm not a guy that's going to be for just rolling out the red carpet for Daniel Jones next year. I'm not bringing in Mike Glennon. I'm not bringing in Colt McCoy. I'm bringing in a good backup, a guy that could come in and win football games. If Daniel Jones goes down with an injury, if Daniel Jones is struggling, I'm definitely giving Daniel Jones a little bit of a leash next year if he comes in as the starter and wins the job. I'm not saying replace him after the first 2, 3, 4 games, but I think people are talking about getting a good backup to come in. Ian, man, thank you very much, man. He says, Aquanu or Neal at 5 and Linderbaum at 7 would be perfect. Sign me up, man. Sign me the hell up, man. I think we should trade for Huntley. A lot of people bring up Huntley as like a Steve says the Joe Schoen hiring is no big deal. Let me talk about Huntley real quick. People bring up Huntley a lot, and maybe Huntley would be good. He looked pretty good with the Ravens, but keep in mind, like, that is a team that is built specifically for a quarterback like him of his skill set, right? They built that team up perfectly for Lamar Jackson. I don't know if Huntley comes in here and looks successful. I don't know. If you get him for like a 4th-round pick, sure, why not? But I don't know if I'd give up a ton for him. As far as the Joe Schoen is no big deal, I think it is a big deal. I don't know if he's going to be great or not, but I think it is a big deal. I think it shows that this organization is having a dramatic shift. You know, no longer are we just bringing in guys that John Mara is comfortable with, guys that have worked inside the organization. I think it's the New York Giants coming out and basically saying, we have failed. We have failed, and the way we have been doing things has failed. It's time for us to think outside the box. So I do think the hiring of Joe Schoen is a big deal. Whether or not he'll be successful, who knows? The guy's never made a move as a general manager in the NFL. He's got a pretty good resume, but that doesn't mean anything. We got to see if he could succeed as the GM for the New York Giants, but I do think it's a big deal. I do think it's a big deal. Let's see what we got. Mark says Tyrod Taylor could back up better than any of our current. Tyrod Taylor would be a solid backup as well. He's like a perfect backup. He's a guy that's not really good enough to be a starter for a team long term, but a guy that could, he's a guy that's not going to come in and lose you football games. That's what he is. Zach says, unpopular opinion, Ezekiel Elliott is a bigger bust than Saquon Barkley. What? That's very unpopular. I hate Ezekiel Elliott. I hate the Dallas Cowboys. There is no way in hell. And I love Saquon Barkley. There is no way in hell. There is no way in hell I'm gonna agree with that opinion. No way. Zeke, watch the Cowboys games. He's not flashy. He doesn't break big runs like Saquon Barkley. He is the hardest runner to bring down in the NFL. He's an incredible blocker, and he's been durable his entire career. Nope. And granted, he's had more to work with. Pete, thank you very much, man. Mariota has a better shot at being a starter in Moana than becoming a starter again. I don't know, man. I think I wouldn't say that. You look at Tannehill with the Titans, right? He kind of was like mediocre too, and he got. I'm sorry, with the Dolphins, he was kind of mediocre, and then he got put in a good situation. He was successful. I'm not a Mariota guy. I don't think Mariota is going to be a good quarterback, but he could get a chance to be a starter. I wouldn't be shocked. Yeah, that's a wild sentence is right, man. My guy needs to be hired for the you're correct, Chris. They went out of the box, and that's a good change. Yeah, that's the way I look at it, Steve. It's like, it's not like, well, we don't know how the guy's going to do, so I'm not going to come out here and tell you that this guy's going to be the second coming of Ozzie Newsome, or he's going to be the greatest GM of all time. Let's see what he does. Let's give him 3 years to do it. Let's see how he builds the football team. But I think just the shift of not not taking the typical John Mara route alone is a massive change for this football team. What did license plate guy say? Let me take a quick look. So a lot of people say license plate guy tweet. What did LPG say? LPG is a great guy, by the way. I met him a couple of times. LPG just said, got a picture of himself as the Giants head coach. He says, "I'm ready." At the end of the day, the Giants and I decided not to pursue the general manager position and keep me on the outside looking in, raising money for all kinds of charitable organizations. There you go, LPG. LPG is awesome. Let's see. And Eli, man, thank you very much, man. Linderbaum and Cross, what do you think about that? Yeah. Listen, a tackle and Linderbaum, please. Whoever they evaluate as to be the best tackle prospect in this year's draft, where they're picking, sign me up. Whether it be Cross, whether it be Aquanu, whether it be Neal if he falls. Yeah, man. Yeah, I like the hire. It was between him and Peters for me. I thought those were going to be the two favorites. They were the guys with the best background. They were the only two guys that were assistant general managers. So I thought it was going to be him or Peters. I think in the end, that's what it came down to. I always thought that Schoen was the favorite based on a lot of things that we heard going into the process. So yeah, I'm happy with the hire. I think he's done some good things in the past, and it resembles a change for the New York Giants. You got a young guy coming in here and who has proven in the past that he could be part of a winning organization. Give him a shot. Let's see what he can do. Albert Breer tweet, man. Let me take a quick look. Cross has only played left tackle. That's not gonna scare me though, to be honest with you. That doesn't mean he can't play right tackle. We've said that about a lot of prospects before and they worked out. Albert Breer. This was an underrated moment in football history. Remember when Ben McAdoo completely changed his haircut midway through the oh, maybe you're talking about this. One thing to keep in mind on Brian Flores and the New York Giants, new GM Joe Schoen worked with Dolphins GM Chris Grier for 9 years in Miami when Grier was a college director. Schoen was an assistant college director when Grier was the GM. Shane's going to know plenty on Flores. I'm going to tell you this right now. If we hire Brian Flores, I'm going to have Dudley Durong on the channel. I've had him on the channel before. He's a great guy. He knows a ton about the Miami Dolphins. So if we hire him, he's going to be the first guy I have on the channel. He was the guy that kind of gave us a little bit of a background on Patrick Graham and Chaplinsky when we hired him. So I'll get him on here, and maybe I'll have him on anyway. This week during the coaching search to talk about Flores, being that Flores is such a hot topic of conversation. He knows a ton about Flores. He knows a ton about the inner workings of that Miami Dolphins team. What do you guys think? Should I have him on? Maybe I'll have him on. Maybe I'll have him on in a couple of days, have a conversation with him, and we'll talk about Flores and the possibility of him becoming the New York Giants head coach. I think I'm going to reach out to him. Xavier, man, thank you very much. He says DJ was bowling out week 1 through week 4, and Saquon was 2. They both going to be here for the long-term watch. I hope so, man. I hope so. So, yeah, you know what? I'm going to reach out to him right now. I'm going to add him right now. He'll come on. He's awesome. Great guy. Met fan, too, by the way. Dudley Durong. And he's from Jersey. Dudley Durong. Would you be able to come on the channel over the next couple of days? My subscribers want to hear more about Flores. See, he'll come on. Great guy. Let's see what we got here. DJ was bowling out week 1 through week 4, and Saquon was 2. They both going to be here for the long-term watch, man. I hope so, man. I hope they work out, man. Nobody's rooting for them harder than me. I'm a Giants fan. I want every guy we draft to be the greatest player ever. Obviously, their chance of being here long-term went down today, though. Whenever you bring in an outside GM, this guy didn't draft them. Ian, Matt, thank you very much. I know it's early, but can you do a record prediction? Oh, dude, to me, it's kind of silly to do a record prediction, really, ever, because football is so unpredictable, but especially now. Because, like, right now, we don't even know, like, what the team's going to look like. We don't even know the head coach. We don't know the free agency situation. We don't know who we're going to draft. We don't know who the teams on our schedule are going to draft. We don't know if any of them are going to acquire a guy like, say, Deshaun Watson or, Russell Wilson. Like, things could completely change. So I'm going to wait to do my record prediction until, like June or July when like we get like a real feel of what this team is going to look like going into next year. Like right now, it doesn't really mean much, the record prediction, because we don't know what us or our opponents are going to look like. But I will do one. Why, Matt, thank you very much, man. Who do you prefer, Quinn or Flores? Probably Flores. I think Dable's the guy I prefer the most right now, but probably Flores. You fans are the reasons why I just own this team. This team needs skill positions to waste high picks on linemen again. Good Lord. Great Wuda. You're entitled to your opinion, and we're entitled to ours. What did the skill positions get us when we didn't have an offensive line? Great Wood, I got a question for you. Was Odell Beckham the best wide receiver in football? I think he was for about a 3 or 4 year stretch. Was Saquon Barkley his rookie year probably the best running back in football? I think he was. Where did that get us? We haven't had an offensive line for 12 years. And to act like teams don't draft offensive linemen early is ridiculous. I could give you several examples where teams draft offensive linemen early, and it's very successful. So we and the other thing is, for everybody that's all about the skill positions, we spent more money on the wide receiver position this year in free agency than any other team in football. $18 million a year on Kenny Golladay. We drafted a wide receiver in the first round. Where did it get us? Skill position players sell jerseys, but they don't mean much if you don't have the right scheme and you can't block. Let's see what we got. Duncan at there much. Why Dable over because he's offensively driven. That's the only reason. I want an offensive mind. He's got ties to Schoen. I want the GM to work well with the head coach. I'd be completely fine with Flores. Completely fine. So it's not like I'm like pounding the table for Dable, but I'd be completely fine with either one. Christopher, man, thank you very much, man. After doing a little research, it looks like the Giants have found their Joe Douglas GM. Now go get your coach. Congrats. And I hope to see you guys at the Jets vs. Giants Super Bowl. Let's go New York Jets. Thank you so much for popping in, Christopher. That's the other thing I'm going to do, by the way, Christopher. He actually reached out to me, Jets Talk 24/7. I told him wait till we hire the head coach, but he reached out to me. We're going to probably do like a weekly show. I've worked with him in the past. Really nice guy, because it's really an interesting offseason for both of our teams, right? You guys got 2 high picks. We got 2 high picks. I think we're going to do like a weekly show during the offseason talking about both of our teams. We're going to alternate channels. He's a really good guy, so I'm looking forward to that. I think it'd be fun to just talk broad New York football between the New York Jets and New York Giants. So I'm going to add that to the channel as well this offseason. So there you go. So if you're a Jet fan, some content for you guys as well. Hey, man, thank you very much, man. They released the opponents for next year. Yeah, I know they released the opponents. But we don't know what the opponents' teams are going to look like. We don't know what they're going to look like. You have the draft, you have free agency, you have potential quarterbacks that are going to go to teams, right? So, like, for me to do win-loss right now is kind of silly. Like, I don't even know what our team's going to look like right now. So, yeah, I know they released the opponents, but it's a little too early to do record predictions. Run, man, thank you very much, man, for the $5 donation. I appreciate it, man. And NY Giants 26 says, Joe Blanken Shane. Let's go, man. Let's go, man. I'm glad that you guys are excited, man. I think we could not undervalue how poorly it ended with Flores in Miami. We'll see. We'll see. I think, like I said, I think it's that he didn't get along with upper management. He didn't get along with upper management. He didn't get along with, with their decision making at the quarterback. That's what happened, I think. Mark says, ESPN says NFL execs believe Washington will trade for Jimmy G. Our DB's interceptions will go up if it actually, Garoppolo is probably not a bad fit for them if they could stay healthy. He's a good backup quarterback, good stopgap quarterback, I should say, rather. He's not a long-term answer, but it's not a bad move for them. It's definitely an upgrade over what they tried to do this year with Fitzpatrick. Garoppolo wins. I mean, say what you want about the guy. Of course, he's been in great situations, but Garoppolo wins. Depending on what they'd have to give up. I don't want Garoppolo. And I'd be happy if Washington got him because I don't view him as a long-term answer. I don't view him as a franchise quarterback, but he's like a good stopgap guy, like a guy that maybe mans the fort for 2 or 3 years if you don't love the quarterbacks in the draft. Bobby, man, what's going on, buddy? Hey, Chris, my friend, are you happy that? Yeah, dude, it's great. It's great news. We got a new GM. We got some young blood in the building, and it's a sign of change for this organization. I'm excited. I'm ecstatic. I hope you are too, man. Giants 26 says, bring me a Dable or Flores. I think those are the two favorites right now. I think those are the two favorites right now. Albert says we could cut a ton of players. Wait until the draft until we. Yeah, exactly, Albert. We don't even know what the roster is going to look like. So let's see that. Let's see them build the team, and then I'll come out with my expectations. Going into June or July, see what the team's going to look like. I'll tell you right now, I'm going to be a lot more cautious this year. So don't expect a high win total. Yeah, don't expect a high win total. I'm going to go in with realistic expectations and have a 3-year outlook on this new GM and new head coach, whoever comes in. I hope they exceed my expectations. But I could tell you right now, I'm not going to come out and say 10 wins next year. I'm telling you that right now. Probably more along the lines of 5 or 6 wins. So, but, let's see what the offseason holds for us. MYJs26 says, I turned into Hornytana after hearing Shane. Let's go, man. Brandon says, who do you think should be our number one free agency target? Nobody. Nobody, Brandon. I said it earlier in the stream. I'm not saying we're not going to sign free agents, but if you're asking like high-profile free agents, nobody. I don't want to spend big money this year. We don't have it, and I don't want to backload salaries. I don't. I want to start building from the ground up, start building this team the right way to have sustained success. Spending big at free agency doesn't do that. It does not accomplish that, at least for this team right now. We're not a couple of free agents away from winning a Super Bowl. I don't see the point in doing it. Not to mention, if you spend big in free agency, you cost yourself draft picks because it will offset the compensation picks you're going to receive from guys like Evan Ingram leaving and guys like, Lorenzo Carter potentially leaving and Will Hernandez leaving and Jabril Peppers leaving. I would rather sit tight, sign 1-year deals, think long-term, get those comp picks, and start accruing more draft capital. Mark says he will always throw you at least one a game. Oh, you talking about who are you talking about? Garoppolo? 1 interception? If that's what you're talking about, I think that's what you're talking about. Let me just look at your last super chat. If that's what you're talking about, yeah. That interception last week was horrible. The 49ers game, he almost cost them that game, man. He almost cost them that game. That was a horrible interception. Nelson. Is Joe Schoen the next George? How the hell would I know? I hope so. But how the hell would I know? I mean, the guy has no proven track record in terms of being a general manager. I hope so. I mean, that'd be good. It's the first time probably since then that we've gone outside the organization. So maybe it'll work out like George Young, but I'm not going to set those expectations. We'll see. But there's no way I can know, man. I don't think the roster is complete garbage. I see Joe saying this. He says everyone's making it sound like the Giants roster is complete garbage. That's not true. They've been totally mismanaged. I don't think it's complete garbage. I'm just not going in with a 10-win expectation because when you do that, you get a fan base that expects 9, 10 wins. And then if they don't achieve that, they're going to call for constant turnover. I think here's the thing. If the Giants stay completely healthy, yeah, they could win 9 or 10 games. But do you think they're going to stay completely healthy? Does recent history suggest that? No. We always get banged up. We have a ton of injury-plagued players, so they're going in next year expecting this team to stay completely healthy. Galladay's going to revert back to his old self. He's not going to get hurt. Tony's not going to get hurt. Jones not going to get hurt. Barkley's not going to get hurt. The offensive line's going to stay completely healthy. That's asking for a lot. So, like, you could say that about almost any team going into the year. If we stay completely healthy or pretty much completely healthy, we can win 9 or 10 games. Realistically speaking, it's not going to happen. So I am going to go in with about 6 wins, 5 or 6 wins probably going into next year. Gerald says, why is there such a buzz for Flores? He got fired, didn't get along with management. Well, I think it's the same thing with Harbaugh, right? I think Harbaugh didn't get along with management either, but people see the results that Flores had as a head coach, right? I mean, everybody said it. The reason Flores, I mean, I'm excited to get Dudley Durog on the channel because he has more insight to the Dolphins than I do. I don't watch them on a weekly basis. And I think last I talked to him, he wasn't in love with Flores. He definitely didn't hate him. But almost everybody said the reason Flores got fired had nothing to do with the execution of the football players. It had to do with the fact that he couldn't get along with upper management. And I guess his handling of Tua. But in terms of his results as a head coach, he did a pretty good job. I mean, for a team that everybody thought was going to be horrible his first year there, did a good job. Then he won 10 games his second year, and he won 9 games this year with a team that could have easily quit on him. So I think his results as a head coach are pretty good. Abe says, I like Flores over Dable because he's been a head coach already. Just not sure what you'll get with Dable, even though I agree on offensive line would be better. Yeah, here's what I'll say, man. If they hire Flores, you definitely need to bring in a really good offensive coordinator. I'll say that right now. Because he's proven he's not a very good offensive coach. He hasn't gotten results. Peter says, I like Flores, but my goodness, how do you add a defensive coach to this fan base after having the worst offensive football for multiple seasons now? And I think that's why fans don't want him. The fans that don't want him, I think that's the reasoning why. And yeah, I think that's fair. MY Giants 26 says, if Schoen is known for drafting O-line, or no worry, is Schoen known for drafting O-line? Let me look at the Bills. I mean, he's not the guy that drafts, right? He does the scouting and he's the assistant general manager. But here's the Bills draft picks. If I remember correctly, they signed a lot of offensive linemen in 2018. And they drafted, I think, Cody Ford in the first round. I don't think he worked out, though. They took Spencer Brown this year in the 3rd round. They took Tommy Doyle in the 5th. And they took Jack Anderson in the 7th. So they took 3 offensive linemen this past draft. None in the first 2 rounds, though. The year before, they didn't take an offensive lineman. And actually, they didn't take an offensive lineman in 18 or I'm 20 or 19 or 18. But like I said, I thought they took Cody Ford. Oh, they did. It says tackle. It usually says offensive tackle. They took Cody Ford at 38 and 19. They signed a lot of free agent offensive linemen, though. I remember that. They signed like 3 starters in 2018. I can't remember who it is off the top of my head. I think Morris was one of them. They signed 3 starters in 2018. And Pooh D'Amour, man, thank you very much, man. Get Flores, hire OC with a great mind. If they get Flores, make sure you get a really good OC. And I think most fans would be okay with that. Abe says, speaking of help, maybe Schoen will bring in a new training staff and also a new field. Go back to grass for F's sake. He's not the one who's going to make the decision about the field. I would think that's more Mara influence, but I hope so. We talk about that all the time. J-Man J says, I want Jim Caldwell. It's ageism. He's a winner and has the resume. Well, Caldwell won 9 games with the Lions, right? Let me take a look at Caldwell. And I know he did a pretty good job with the Colts, too, if I remember correctly. When obviously, they had a really good team, but when he stepped in for, what's his name? I forgot who was the head coach there that had cancer. Or maybe he got replaced, but I can't remember. But yeah, obviously with the Colts, he did really well in 2009. He won 14 games. 2010, he won 10. Then he went 2-14. That was the year that Peyton Manning got hurt. Then he went to Detroit in 2014. He went 11-5 with the Lions his first year there. Wow. I mean, he's older, like you said. He's how old is he now? He's 67. That's getting up there for. I mean, Coughlin was like that age when we moved on from him. He was like 69, maybe 70. He's kind of old, man. I don't want to sound like ageism, but I mean, he's approaching almost 70. Has he had some success with bad? I mean, Detroit was a bad team. Yeah. I mean, if you take away the 2-14 season with the Colts, the year Peyton Manning went down, which is understandable. He's 60-36 as a head coach, coaching 4 seasons with the Lions. So he has had some success as a head coach, but it's kind of old, man. But he's got a track record of being a solid coach. Mark, man, thank you very much. Louis Riddick's takes in the media, especially on the Giants, may have cost him an interview. Said Thomas was the worst tackle in the draft and Dwayne Haskins was the best quarterback. Listen, man, I don't know how anybody, and I know a lot of people not a lot, but there were definitely some Giants fans that wanted Louis Riddick. I don't know how anybody could look at the candidates that the New York Giants brought in and thought that Louis Riddick was a better alternative. How? Louis Riddick he's not been a part of a front office since like 2012. Well, he was with the Philadelphia Eagles. I think he was a scout. And yeah, it's easy to go on TV and say that this team is doing everything wrong when they're really bad and look smart, but anybody could do that. How could you think he's a more credible candidate than any of these guys they brought in? I mean, Joe Schoen's been in the league now for 20 straight years throughout various organizations. You could say the same thing about Peters. You could say the same thing about Poles. He's been with the Chiefs now for 13 years. All of these guys were much better candidates, in my opinion, than Louis Riddick. I don't know why Giants fans wanted him to begin with, other than the fact that they think he's smart on TV. Lorenzo, man, thank you very much, man. What do you think about Mike McDaniels? Here's what I'll say about Mike McDaniels. I don't know a whole lot about him. I know the one thing I know for sure is he does not call the plays with the San Francisco 49ers. People say he's smart and people think he could be the next great thing, and maybe he could be. And that's swinging for the fence if you bring a guy like that in. I'll say this. My best friend is a diehard San Francisco 49ers fan. Diehard. And I actually went to the bar with him to watch the playoff game, going to the bar with him again this week to watch the 49ers playoff game. And we had a long conversation about the 49ers because obviously Peters was coming in for an interview. We talked about Harbaugh. We talked about McDaniels. Told me Harbaugh, he says Giants fans who don't want Harbaugh are out of their mind. He thinks he's an incredible candidate, but the New York Giants won't hire him. He said Peters should have been their number one choice for the GM, and he said McDaniels would be a bad choice for the New York Giants to bring in as head coach. Probably due to the fact that he doesn't call the plays, but I don't know a whole lot about him. That's just coming from a diehard 49ers fan. He was more concerned that the Giants may take Peters. He said he wouldn't blink an eye if they lost McDaniels. He thinks the offense revolves around Shanahan. So, but I know a lot of fans look at him as it could be the next hotshot head coach. Gavin, man, thank you very much, man. Flores fired 3 OCs, offensive line coaches in 3 years. Yeah, he didn't get along with the staff there. We got 2 of his guys. Shaplinsky and obviously Patrick Graham, and like you said, the OCs as well. But that is the big red flag and knock on it. Mark says, I agree, man. Thank you very much, man. I appreciate it. Sup, Tana, I'm having a shot in honor of the hire. Cheers to you, brother. Hopefully Joe builds this team up, bro. I hope so, man. Did I say McDaniels? I know it's Mike McDaniel. But yeah, I don't know. To me, again, I'll give the guy a chance if they hire him, but he doesn't call the plays. He could be the next McVay. Who knows? But let's see. Next step, focus on clearing up some cap space. Well, first we got to get the head coach. J-Man J says, I wouldn't be looking at Caldwell as some long-term guy. I'm hiring him for maybe 4 seasons to bring stability and that culture that Judge never brought. I mean, maybe. I don't. Let's put it this way. Caldwell's not going to be a head coach that is going to excite the fan base. It wouldn't excite me either because of what you just said. The second they hire the guy, I'm going to be like, well, even if he's really good, he's probably only going to be here for 4 or 5 years at best. So I don't know, man. I don't think Caldwell should be the direction that they go. I don't think it will be. I think they're going to go for a younger head coach, but he's got credentials. He's done it. He's been a good head coach. And NYJ26 says, we have to wait for the Bills to be eliminated, right? No, they already announced the hiring. I think what the rule was, had they waited and the Bills made the AFC Championship game, then they couldn't announce the hiring until the Bills were eliminated. But no, they've already announced it. He's with the Giants. I don't think he'll have his press conference until after this week's playoff game, and then he'll have his press conference with the Giants, I would assume. But no, he's with the Giants, man. Ian, man, Chuck Pagano. That's who I was thinking of. That was the guy that had cancer with the Colts. I mean, I don't even know what he's been doing. Let me say, he was the head coach for the Colts. He had cancer. He is now currently he's actually out of the league. He was with the Bears last from 2019 to 2020 as a defensive coordinator. He was the head coach for the Colts. How old is he? I mean, he's 61. I don't know, man. I think I want to go a little bit younger. Yeah. I mean, and he had Andrew Luck. I mean, I don't know. Not my ideal choice. Let's see what we got. Albert says, fans have to give Shane a couple years to turn this team around. He's going to have to change the whole scouting department and analytics department. I agree. I'm going to keep saying that, man. 3 years. 3 years. Let's see. Cody Ginsman, thank you for being a member for 12 months. He says, what's up, Dana? Let me see this real quick. You see the video I sent on Twitter. Something tells me the East will get 2 new quarterbacks this offseason. I love DJ, but let me see. No, I did not. Did you send it via video, via message, or did you at me? Let me see if I can find it. Oh, I could do tomorrow. Okay, so here we go. All right, guys. All right, so all your Flores questions, 5:30. I don't know if it's going to be live or pre-recorded, whatever he wants to do. All your Flores questions tomorrow. I'm going to have Dougley Durong on the channel. If you guys don't know who he is, he's by far the biggest Dolphins YouTuber. Really good guy, really knowledgeable about his team. He's going to be on the channel. We're going to talk just about Flores. Gonna have him on. Maybe it'll be a 25, 30-minute conversation. I don't know, but gonna have him on. We're going to talk about Flores. We're going to talk about why he got fired by the Miami Dolphins, what he liked about Flores, what he didn't, what he could potentially bring to the New York Giants, being that he seems like he's going to be one of the big candidates for the New York Giants to bring in. So tomorrow, Dougley Durong is going to be on the channel. I don't know if it'll be live or pre-recorded, but going to have a conversation with him about Flores. So definitely be on the lookout for that. Irishman, thank you very much. He says, Chris, you missed any, I didn't mean to miss your member chat, man. He says, I am very happy with this hire. Finally, a young GM from outside the organization. Let's hope we get an offensive-minded head coach and offensive coordinator. There is hope. Go Giants. Let's go, man. Let's go, Irish. And I'm sorry I missed your members chat, man. Sometimes I miss those. I try to keep up with them. But I'm with you. Offensive-minded head coach, I think, is what I would want. Mark says, I'm running out of money, so that so last comment, I actually like Jalen Smith's play. Mark, man, thank you, man. Listen, Jalen Smith, I'd be completely fine bringing back as a depth linebacker. Either way, it could go either way for me. I mean, I don't know. Probably won't be back. The new head coach is going to want to bring in his guys, right? The new GM is going to want to bring in his guys. So maybe he'll be back, but I don't expect him to be a starter. Chris Pushin P, yeah, man. I bet you DP Entertainer is bad dog. I bet you DP. I don't know what you mean by that, Kenji. I bet you DP. DP. I don't know what you mean by that. I'm going to close this out in like 5 or 10 minutes. I just wanted to go live for the GM like I said I would. I'm going to have a lot of videos up for you guys about the head coaches that we're bringing in for interviews and doing backgrounds and all of them. Excited to talk to Doug tomorrow about Flores. Let's see what we got. Oh, no, I don't think that's bad, dog. I don't think that. I hope it's not bad. No, that's not bad, dog. Bad dog wouldn't do that. I don't think that's bad, dog. Yeah, Talking Giants tonight. Talking Giants tonight is going to be on Bad Dogs. I think it's going to be at like 10. He's doing the Lakers game. So we alternate channels. We'll definitely be doing the show the next week. After hopefully we hire a head coach. There'll be a lot to talk about back on my channel. But yeah, tonight will be on Bad Dogs. And yeah, that'll be tonight. And MY Giants 26 says, he says, need a nickname for the Schoen train. How old is he? Schoen is 42. Schoen is 42. I don't know if I started that. I saw other people saying that. I did a Twitter live chat and it just came to me. I didn't hear it from anybody else, but now I saw a lot of people saying it. I did a Twitter live chat with you guys about a week ago, and I said the Schoen train, but maybe somebody else said it before me. But it's perfect. It rhymes. It works. Sup, Dana, heard the good news, praying for a good offseason. You and me both, man. Can we stop drafting people are unproven? Can we just get Flores and Watson, who everyone knows is proven? Fix the line more and win. I'm tired of doing the same damn experiment over, Carlos says. Let's see if we get Flores first. And then, if we get Flores, we can start talking about Watson as a possibility. Let's see if we even hire Flores. Flores wants to be the coach with Watson. If we hire Flores, we're trading for Watson. Maybe. Armstead would be a nice addition, right tackle from the Saints. I would actually trade pick number 7, swap with the Saints. Yeah, but Oscar, let me look up Armstead. Why would the Saints, people always bring up, offensive linemen to me that they think the Giants should trade for. Why would the Saints trade him? I mean, if he's that good, why would they trade him? He's actually I think he's got voidable money next year, according to this contract. So maybe he's a free agent. I don't know, but we're probably not going to have the money to bring him in. Do you think we should trade Saquon and a couple of picks for Watson? Sure. No, he wasn't. Stop. Stop. It's called Yankee syndrome. It's all about who they want. They never take the other team into account. Oh, you're talking about trades? I don't think that's I think it's any team. I think there's a lot of fans like that. There's a lot of fans like that. And Watson still has allegations. Would love Watson, but you think it's going to turn our team around with no line? No, it's not. You still got to fix the rest of this team. I mean, at the end of the day, look what Watson did with Houston. They won, 4 games? He was great. But I think, obviously, the obvious draw there, without the allegations, is he's 25. I mean, you look at Kenny Pickett, who's a guy a lot of people were talking about drafting. He's 24. He's still really young. Mark says, found $5 in my couch. New York Giants have been officially the most injured team. Wow. I heard that they had the most injuries this year. I didn't know dating all the way back to then they've had the most injuries, but it makes sense. We're always hurt. Darian says, how about, oh, dude, I was going to stream the game last night, and I just wasn't feeling up to it. I'm glad I didn't. That was a horrible game. I went to the game on Tuesday, and that was a horrible game as well. But the Knicks are, oh, man, they're a mess right now, man. The Knicks are a freaking mess right now. Well, it'll be 27. I thought maybe when I looked at it, I thought it was 25. Let me look. Either way, I mean, 27 is still really young, especially for a quarterback with how long they play nowadays. But I thought he was going to be 26. I thought he was 25 last year. Let me see. He was you know what it is? I looked at his stats on Pro Football Reference, and obviously he didn't play this year. So, yeah, he'll be 27. Still young. I mean, you look at guys like Brady playing until 40. You get a guy at 27, that's 10 years. You have 10 years to work with that guy. It's not like Wilson, who you'd be getting at 35, right? So we're 34, or however old he is. Yeah, the Knicks are embarrassing. Sign Flores, then get Deshaun Watson, draft right tackle, hashtag make the Giants great again. We'll see, man. I don't think he's going to be on the Giants. I'd be shocked, Sarcone. Shocked. That's why I'm not even going to make a video on it. If we hire Flores and rumors start to come about, I'll talk about it. But until then, it's not even approaching my mind. I don't think it's going to happen. I love Watson, but there's no way. Yeah. You got it partly right. It's not that the Knicks are a mess now. They just were a mess they just weren't a mess for a year. Yeah. They're always a mess. Better chance Daniel Jones is going to be the quarterback than Deshaun Watson. I think Daniel Jones right now is the clear-cut favorite to probably be the starter next year. I think if I was breaking it down by percentages, I would say Jones is probably 65 to 70% going to be the quarterback next year with a stronger backup, 20% draft, like 5% Watson, something like that. Like a small percent Watson, a larger, smaller percentage for draft, and more than likely Jones will be the quarterback. Breaking news by Ian Rappaport. Ex-Miami Dolphins head coach Brian Flores is expected to having a head coaching job interview. Yeah, I mean, I guess now it's official, but I think we all knew that was going to happen. Sam Borowski, what's going on, man? Watson will cost 3 first-round picks, and the Giants will get a quarterback who looks fun in losses. Remember Fran Tarkenton in the 70s? Will set us back 5 years, won't be able to fix the O-line or other holes. Listen, in an ideal world, I know fans don't want to hear it, Sam. The best approach is to continue to build through the draft. It's not the quick fix. It's not immediate gratification. And you have to hit on the draft picks. And I understand we have not hit on the draft picks. But I agree that the best way to go about doing things is to continue to build through the draft. Xavier, man, thank you very much, man. Are we getting Flores and Watson? Because Watson waives his trade clause for Flores, and Flores spoke with the new rating champion. Before it even becomes a possibility for me, Let's hire Flores first. If we hire Flores, I'll start talking about it. Flores is coming in for an interview. We'll see. Watson's going to be a popular name, and I know a lot of Giants fans are going to want him. David says, hi, Chris. Happy about the new GM hire. Would love to get O-line and pass rusher for the first round and tight end from Wisconsin in the second. I think, as I said earlier, I think tight end in the third for me. I think I want linemen with 2 of the first 3 picks. Defense and linemen with 2 of the first 3 picks. And then probably tight end with 1 of those 2/3. That's probably what I want, but I'm not always going to get what I want. They may take a tight end in the second. We'll see. You hear about Kershaw's second? No, I didn't. I didn't hear about Kershaw. I would probably say Trubisky's more likely. Either one is a fine backup. I'd say Trubisky's probably more likely. Carlos says, is there no way to trade Daniel Jones for draft picks? Let's say to the Broncos. Well, they fired Shermer. I know like that was like the draw that people thought that he could go to the Broncos, but they fired Shermer. No, I don't think there's much. You might be able to get something for him, but nothing of significant value, I would guess, after the injury that he had to his neck. So you trade. I mean, if they drafted a quarterback, you would trade him, but you're not getting much for him. Pencilman says Deshaun Watson's salary is $27 million a year. Don't know how that's going to fit with our cap space. Oh, trust me, Pencilman. If they wanted to, they could do it. Trust me. They could include players in the trade to offset some of the costs. They could manipulate his contract. There's things they could do if they really wanted to bring him in. I don't think it's going to happen. Let me look at his contract. There's definitely things they could do. Let's see. Deshaun Watson's contract. Just for shits and giggles. 2022, $40 million against the cap, but I'm not sure the dead money would work after the trade. Then $42 million, $37 million, and $32 million. So you're paying him a lot. You would have to do a lot of things to get to make him work the next 3 or 4 years with the Giants salary cap. Lorenzo says, ridiculous how some Giants fans actually believe trading 3 picks for a quarterback who's going to have no time will save our franchise. Shaking my head. It's not what I would do. I'm not going to lie. If they got Deshaun Watson, how could I not be interested and excited to see him play with the New York Giants? But it's risky to give up all that draft capital for a team that is not well built right now like the New York Giants are. I'll say that right now. But I also understand both sides of it. The guy's a top 5 quarterback. But I'm with you. I would rather him build through the draft. I know it's boring. I know it takes longer. Gerald says, Flores got fired. Watson still has legal trouble, not to mention kind of sketchy. Come on, Giants fans. I don't think it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Really interesting video on the Bills YouTube channel called Inside the Bills Draft. I watched that, Luke. I think I did. It's like a 4.5-minute video. I think I showed it on one of my streams with Joe Schoen. I watched it. It was good. It shows you, like, how we work, his inner workings with the Buffalo Bills. I think I watched that video. You don't sit back 5 years if you get a generational quarterback talent. He has 6 good years left at least. It's up to the Giants to build a decent team around him in that time. Listen, if you get Watson for the right price, you have to at least listen. I'll say that, but it's risky. My brother-in-law is a lifelong Dolphins fan from Miami. He tells me Flores is not getting along with people I don't want. Yeah, well, that's obviously why he got fired, or at least a big reason why he got fired. If we get Neil, I'll forgive the last 5 years. What's up, Matthew Stein? Robert says, when do you think we will know our head coach? I mean, I have no idea. I mean, I would think it'll be within a week, maybe 10 days, but I have no idea. I think it'll be an extensive search, just like the GM. I think they'll bring in 6, 7, 8, probably like upwards of 10 candidates. They're going to bring in a lot of guys. So I'm trying to remember how long it took last time with Judge. I don't know. I don't remember how long it took, but we didn't even get through all the interviews because I think they were just so impressed with Judge. They hired the guy. So we'll see. I don't know how long it's going to take. I'm hoping no more than a week. I hope we know our head coach within a week. Say hi to Brazil, Giants fans here. What's going on, Brazil? Thanks for popping in. Check Art Stapleton. Okay. I'll take a quick look. Art Stapleton. What did Art just say? Somebody just brought that up in the stream earlier. One name I've heard mentioned as an OC possibility if Flores were to land as the head coach with the Giants, Bill O'Brien. Not the only choice, obviously, and no guarantee that it would happen, but names are always fun. And OC is absolutely a big part of Flores' candidacy, in my opinion. I mean, it makes sense. Former Patriot, right? Even though I don't think his time with Flores overlapped. Maybe it did. Let me take. Oh no, it definitely did. Flores was there for a long time, so it makes sense. They've worked together before. He's he's known as a good offensive mind, not the best head coach. Maybe it'll happen. True Apple says not to mention he worked with Watson, right? True Apple says I passionately love Eichel as a prospect, grotesque in the run game. If he can get him along with Linderbaum or Ojabo via trade down, God bless the league. Ojabo's another guy a lot of people like. High upside edge rusher out of Michigan. Dable. I'm all about it. Flores is a lot like Joe Judge, tends to point fingers and fire people. Well, that's the other thing, Joe. And I think that's like a lot of people that are scared off by Flores. They're like, you're hiring a guy just like Judge, right? A guy that comes from the Patriots, a guy that's known to be a hard ass, a guy that has not gotten along with people in the past, and people want a different direction. So I don't know. We'll see. I'm excited to see how the head coaching search plays out and who they bring in and who they interview and, who Schoen ultimately ends up deciding to pick. I'm going to let him make the decision, and I'm going to, give him an opportunity to prove people right or wrong. Yeah, I know he's a Patriots guy, but he's not coming here at Flores as the head coach. Richard says, what do you think about the Giants signing the coach from LSU? You talking about Brady? I don't know if that's who you're talking about. Joe Brady? Yeah. I mean, he was supposed to be good. Didn't do a very good job with the Panthers, if that's who you're referring to. Give me a shout out, Chris. Andy, let's go, Big Blue. What's going on, Andy, man? Thanks for popping in. Jalen Reagor to the Giants? No, thanks. I don't know if Ojabo's from the UK. That's a good question. Let me take a look. I thought maybe I'm getting it mixed up with another prospect. I thought I heard. Hold on, let me look. I don't know. I'll have to look into that, Joe. I don't know. That's what I thought it was, Nigeria. That's what I was about to say. That's what I heard, I thought, Nigeria. Now somebody's saying Scotland. Ojabo's from Scotland, I believe. Okay. I knew Karlaftis is from Greece. I knew that, Wisconsin. What are your thoughts on Malik Willis from Liberty? I mean, I've looked at him a bit. I'm going to look at him more as the draft approaches. I've looked at him a bit. I've looked at some of his highlights. I've looked at some of his, people do film breakdowns of him. I watched one game of his. I mean, clearly the one thing that stands out to you with him is his athletic ability, right? I mean, you see what people, ooh and ah about, right? His ability to extend plays and his escapability in the backfield. One thing I'll say, in things I've watched that, because you always look for things you don't like when you potentially drafted a quarterback, he makes some bad decisions, man. And I know that he does not have a good team at Liberty. You can say the same thing about Daniel Jones with Duke. But sometimes he makes a lot of bad decisions in terms of he throws some silly picks. He's got a strong arm. I'll say that. He's got a quick release. I don't think I want to take him top 7. I'll say that. I don't view him with the upside of, people today on Twitter were telling me, well, Josh Allen, right? Schoen took Josh Allen or was at least partially responsible for taking Josh Allen with the Bills. High ceiling, right? I don't view Willis' ceiling as high as a guy like Josh Allen. I wasn't on YouTube when Josh Allen was drafted, and I know Josh Allen was a complete project coming out of Wyoming. Josh Allen, to me, like when I watched him play, and I've always liked Josh Allen. I remember people were getting on me going into the year before he broke out when I said he's going to be the breakout quarterback this year. To me, When I watch Josh Allen, I'm like, that's Cam Newton potentially with a stronger arm. I don't see that kind of upside with Malik Willis. I just don't. I see a 6-foot quarterback with escapability who's got he's got a strong arm. He could throw the ball down the field. And maybe I'm wrong. I'm not a professional evaluator. And quarterback is a very hard position to predict of where, how these guys are going to do. But I don't see it. I don't see that kind of upside. So that's why I don't want to draft him. I don't want to draft anybody at the quarterback position that early. But guys, I am going to wrap this up. I just want to say thank you so much for everybody. I'm going to be live again tonight with Bad Dog. Let me get to Rolly real quick. I'm going to be live tonight with Bad Dog, though. We'll talk further about Schoen. We'll talk about the head coaching search, any news that may come out leading up into that. I'll have a video up tomorrow, I'm sure, talking about the head coaching candidates that we've heard about that are coming in. I'm going to do individual breakdown videos of all these head coaches that are coming in. I'm also going to be either live or pre-recorded with Ugly Do Wrong. I haven't decided yet. Whatever he wants to do, talking about Flores. He's a Dolphins guy. He knows more about him than I do, or pretty much anybody in this chat. So I'm looking forward to talking about Flores with him, being that he's a candidate. Maybe I'll try to get a Buffalo Bills guy on to talk about Dable as well, being that they're more familiar with him than we are. So I want to try to do that leading up into the coaching search when I have a lot of content up for you guys. Let me get to Rolly real quick. New beginning is upon us. My guy was Peters, but I'm excited to have Shane. I pray he cleans out the scouting department and this roster. Giants fans need to understand a quarterback is not out of the picture. I don't think anybody thinks quarterback's out of the picture. I don't think quarterback's out of the picture. I'm just going to give my opinion as to what I think they should do. But if they take a quarterback, I'll hope that quarterback's the second coming of Joe Montana. And we'll see what they do in the offseason. Obviously, a quarterback's not out of the picture. Whenever you bring in a new regime, it's possible they could take one. Depends on how they evaluate these quarterback prospects. Ed Ogeron, that's who you were talking about? Oh, you were talking about a head coach. I thought you were talking about as an offensive coordinator. Ed Ogeron, of course, LSU was the head coach. I think he still is the head coach there, but he was there when Joe Burrow won the national championship. I doubt it. We'll see. I mean, if they bring him in for an interview, it would be an interesting name. I thought he was talking about as the offensive coordinator. But yeah, Ogeron's done a good job with LSU. Mets, man, thank you very much, man. Thoughts on Jalen Brunson trade rumors? I mean, solid. I remember the draft. So the Knicks almost drafted Jalen Brunson. They ended up taking Mitch Robinson. I don't remember if Brunson went before or after Robinson, but I remember on draft night me being like, yeah, I'd be happy with Brunson there in the second round. They ended up taking Mitch, who obviously worked out for where they took him. Brunson's been pretty good with Dallas, to my knowledge. I don't think he's a starting point guard, something that the Knicks need, but he's a good player. Obviously his dad, Rick, played for the Knicks as well. Well, we'll see. He'd be a solid pickup for the Knicks. We certainly need some help at the point guard position. He's not going to be a guy that's going to change the franchise, but be a solid pickup. But guys, I'm going to head out. Thank you to everybody for being here. Thank you guys for all the support. Definitely be talking Giants later tonight with Bad Dog. Definitely be back on the channel talking a lot of Giants tomorrow and for the foreseeable future. Now that we got an idea of where this team is going, we got a new GM in there. Really looking forward to the press conference for Shane. I'll definitely be recapping that press conference as well whenever that happens. Talk about some of the points that he brings up. Really excited about the forward direction of this football team. And be good, everybody. Be good, everybody. Thank you guys for being here. We got a new GM. Let's go, Giants.